So let's forget about tomorrow and live for tonight while we're free. Touch the sky. Tonight we're coming alive. Touch the sky. Tonight we're coming alive. From the dust we will awaken, and life will fill our veins. But these are the moments that we live for. I can keep it inside of me. Touch the sky. Tonight we're coming alive. Sunlight begins to fade now, and I feel like I'm losing time, but I don't know how I'm here. The sunlight is turned to gray, and I feel like I'm losing love again. I don't know how I'm here. I could feel your heartbeat. I could feel somewhere you're looking down. I could feel your heartbeat. I could feel somewhere you're looking down. 'Cause it's you I'm loving, and it's you that I wanna breathe, and it's you
Hello everybody and welcome along to Simracersworld TV and welcome to round 5 of the Simracersworld GT Evo series here at the beautiful Imola circuit. And I'm not sure how many of you watched yesterday's GT Pro race, but if yesterday was anything to go by, tonight is going to be one hell of a race. As usual, I am joined in the commentary box by the ever amazing Peter MacKay. Peter, what do you think's on for tonight?
Well, hello Jack, it's an absolute pleasure to be here for another round. Round 5 already of the Simracersworld GT Evo series, and well, it appears like we have someone who wants to take on the might of G-Drive with Vincenzo Amico in the Ford GT, so it's going to be very exciting indeed. This circuit is a really, really tricky layout, lots of potential for mistakes, but a real challenge for the drivers, and I think it's going to be a whole lot of fun tonight to call the action.
I do agree. So just as we look at Anton Dupin, just as you said, it was a circuit which is very unforgiving and a challenge for the drivers. It's just proven it can catch some of the best out. We know Anton's been competitive throughout the season, but it has caught him out this evening. I've just realised you won't have any in-sim sound. Let me get that sorted for you. There we go. We'll shut the music up so you can hear the whine almost of this Ford GT, and this is the man we were talking about, Vincenzo Amico. At the moment, I've been told he is a bronze-rated driver, but I'm afraid I'm going to have to disagree because at the moment he is almost a full, or when I last looked, he was almost a full second quicker than Ben Thanes, but Ben has put in an absolutely stellar time to get even closer. They're now within a quarter of a second, but this might just be the thorn in G-Drive's side, Peter.
Definitely will. I think the only thing bronze about this particular chap is the colour of his car. It's a kind of dark orange bronze sort of colour. But his pace, well, he's putting on platinum pace because you see there his time on the screen, 1 minute 37.5. And as you said, Jack, the G-Drive guys, Ben Thanes and Rob Tyson, are getting closer. But the difference is that Amico, he's been putting in all through practice, he's been putting in 1 minute 37 lap times with ease, and I think that's the difference, is that he's able to do that sub 1 minute 38 lap on a consistent basis, whereas Ben Thanes and Rob Tyson have only been able to get to that marker occasionally. So it's gonna, well, this is your man on screen right now. Looks like he's gonna be the man to beat tonight as a newcomer in the series as well.
Yeah, we've got to remember this is his first night out. He's joined at the halfway point in the season. So round 5 this evening, round 6 we go to Silverstone, then Suzuka, Road Atlanta, Daytona, and finally we finish off at Spa. And I think that is where Vincenzo, pardon me, is looking at the moment. If he can keep up what is already absolutely scoldering pace this evening, if he can keep on putting in some solid stints throughout the race and throughout the qualifying sessions, Spa for him is going to really be where he needs to be. Obviously, he doesn't have to think about any sort of penalties at the moment. We know that Ben Thanes Ben Thanes was here at Mosport 2 weeks ago and picked up some good points, but he also picked up some more incident points, so we will have to bear that in mind. Rob Tyson returning this evening, currently in provisional 3rd position, and he picked up a few more incident points as well. But Vincenzo, he's not going to have to worry about that because it's his first night here, and all he's got to worry about a clean, quick race. And if he can keep on putting in stints that he's already been doing, he's on for one hell of a night.
Absolutely, yeah, and of course, as you rightly mentioned, Jack, Rob Tyson has had one missed round as well, so that will play in Vincenzo's favour as well over the course of the season. And it's funny you mentioned the list of tracks that we've got to come up, some absolute crackers. I have to be honest, Daytona is the one that I'm particularly excited about. It's a circuit quite dear to my heart. I went there for the Rolex 24-hour at Daytona in January, and it is just the most incredible facility. And the iRacing software engineers have done an incredible job. And basically, you feel like you're there. It's an incredible recreation, as all the tracks in iRacing are, but particularly Daytona. It's going to be really cool to see our drivers go around there. And of course, as we head into, we're very near the end of the iRacing season, but that will change, that will finish, and a new iRacing season will begin before our Simracersworld GT Evo series finishes. So there's going to be quite a shake-up there, as there always is, Jack, when there's a big update on the service.
Yeah, and you've got to bear in mind, as we look on the left-hand side of the screen as well. We've heard a couple of drivers complaining about the balance of performance, the BOP for these cars, and the Porsche has been hit by it. Oh, this is that's Giuseppe Nazzo going for a slight off-track excursion at the penultimate corner. But more and more, the later we go on into the season, as qualifying just finishes, we've seen these Porsches get more and more competitive. Last night, Ryan Parkins started in 5th. I think he finished in 8th in the end, lost a position on the last lap to Robin DeVille. But look at this tonight. One of the brand new drivers to the series, Sam Baxter, got behind the wheel of that Porsche, made it his own, and he's all the way up in P5, Peter. So lots of new talent working their way into the series, and I think a lot of the other drivers have got something to be scared of at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. It seems to me that there's been a few new challengers to be honest, the dominance of the BMWs that we've seen not only in the Simracersworld season, but the whole iRacing season, which is, as I say, nearly just a couple of weeks to completion now. But I have to say, I've been doing some laps recently in this car on screen, the Ford GT, and it's an absolute cracker of a machine now. It really is. It's a lovely feel to it, lovely power delivery. It almost feels like it's got a 4-wheel drive. The traction's so good, but strangely, not quite as quick in the straight line as it needs to be, but really good through the bends.
I personally haven't got to the 4GT, but I've heard some really good things about it. It's quite a leveling car, I've heard, where you can push it to what you think your limits are and what you think the car's limits are, but you push over that and it really will bite you in the bum. We've still got a car out on circuit. I can hear a Ford going around. Is it Anton Dupin? There we go. He's just pulled over. Steve Cooley, maybe? No, he's on a slow lap as well. So I think very shortly, ladies and gentlemen, we will have a grid for you just to go through some of the new drivers we've got. We've obviously got Vincenzo Amico currently on pole position and Sam Baxter for Fury Simsport. And then we've got Vessel Janssen for Vueling's Racing, currently in P24 at the moment. And then 2 of our E-Team Brit entries. Who do we have? We've got Bradley Brockies and Sandro Ballesteros. And both of those guys racing for the E-Team Brit team, I think. I think that's probably the correct phrasing. And from what I've heard from our lovely race director Seb Herberer, is it's a team that focuses on supporting drivers with disabilities, which is obviously brilliant to see, and it's great to see them out on the grid. I think iRacing is just taking its time because we don't have the grid available to us at the moment, Peter, which is a shame. There we go, the session's ticked over. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hand you over to the, as ever, brilliant Peter MacKay to rattle you through the grid.
Well, indeed. And so Vincenzo Amico, the newcomer here to the Simracersworld GT Evo Series, puts it on pole position by over 0.2 of a second from series frontrunner Ben Thanes. Rob Tyson will roll off 3rd alongside Camille Yagazoglu. In 5th will be Fury Simsport's Sam Baxter alongside Mr. Steady Eddie himself, Anton Dupin. In 7th will be John McConville alongside Steve Cooley. 9th will be Dominic Forster alongside Ronald Moons. Watch for him in the Porsche. 11th will be Martin Deckens alongside Bram van Oitven for Dynamics Racing. And we shall wait for our order to go through.
It's taking its time.
We'll see. It is taking its time, yeah. So I'll run through these quickly. 13th, Sven Calbert alongside Stephen DeWolf. Dieter Ertz alongside Matteo Sufi. Cami Sturch and Giuseppe Nazzo. Henrik de Grave, Marius Janka, Kim Behate, Thijs Berg, Stuart Musselwhite, and Wessel Janssen. Round out the top 24. Ian Roots, the Roger Penske of British Sim Racing for Simracersworld Esports. He is in 25th alongside Dean Timms. Bradley Brockies is 27th alongside James Hobden. So there he is, Sandro Parastellos for E-Team Brit alongside... Oh, no, not. Oh, aha, nearly got me there. Sebastian Weber is actually our race steward. And Taylor Lane and Roger Morton will start from the back. I suspect they're maybe starting from the back, Jack, to get some incident points taken off their license, I presume.
Yes, so that seems like what the people at the bottom end of the order have been doing, because we've got to remember, if you do start at the back, you gain back 10 incident points if you start in the pit lane, of which yesterday we saw 5 drivers start in the pit lane. They all gained back 20 incident points, which can really help you towards the end of the season. Bearing in mind the last round is at Spa, and that's renowned for its almost ease to get incident points, and the incident limit is 60 for the entire season, so being able to gain some of them back is brilliant, and I think a lot of the drivers have been making the most of it. Somebody we have absent this evening that I can't see for the life of me on the timing screen is Billy Fletcher, championship leader.
Yeah, that's a big surprise not to see Billy out here. He's had a good start to the season, some amazing charges through the field, but yep, obviously something getting in the way for young Mr. Fletcher, but we've got another fast Ford to contend here, number 78, Vincenzo Amico. Can anyone stop him? His practice pace is absolutely blistering, but I'm sure the G-Drive guys will have something to say about it.
They will indeed. We go around the final corner now. Vincenzo backing up the grid. Ben Thanes raring to get going, almost alongside, almost in the lead at this point on the run up to the line. There's an incident behind. That's Bessel Janssen, Dean Timms, and I think Ian Roots got spun around in that possibly. But there he goes, puts his foot to the floor. We go green here at Imola for round 5 of the Simracersworld GT Evo Series, and a brilliant start from Vincenzo Amico. He caught Ben Thanes and Rob Tyson napping. Look at this, 3 wide on the run up to turn 1. That's Rob Tyson spinning it into the wall. A massive hit. I think he got spun around by his teammate. I'll have to have a look at that in a moment. The person that got away with that was Ben Thanes. Kamil Yagizoglu still continuing on. Anton Dupin worked his way through. I don't think we've had any more incidents. Where is Rob Tyson? He's still sat there in the wall, so a rotten start for Rob. I think he might have been collected by his teammate. We'll go back up to the front though just to see how everybody is getting on. Look at this lead. Vincenzo has already built up. And Peter, tell us what you see with this incident, if I can find it.
I did not know that G-Drive had signed Sebastian Vettel and Mark Webber and got a new energy drink sponsor. Look at this. This is amazing. So you'll see the 2 G-Drive guys. No, I do apologise. I will wash my mouth out. I think Kamil Yagizoglu got into the side of Ben Thanes and that flipped him sideways. Yes, I think that actually that the 2 G-Drive guys were kind of innocent bystanders there. Be good to get an on board with Kamil Yagizoglu if we can. I think he just tapped the rear quarter panel. Yes, he did, and that just flipped him into the path of his teammate, and somehow Yagizoglu manages to avoid the melee. This is absolutely extraordinary start to the race, and really it's playing perfectly into the... Yes, there you go. Playing perfectly into the favour of Vincenzo Amico. Well, Jack, what a dramatic start to the race.
It really is, and I think Ben Thanes might have slowly started to creep over on Kamil Yagizoglu, which I think sort of sealed his fate into his teammate. Look at that gap already. Vincenzo already 1.5 seconds clear of Ben Thanes, and we knew Ben Thanes was rapid coming into this championship, but Vincenzo is something else. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets the boot, but going upwards, because he might end up in the GT Pro Series at this rate, the rate that he's pulling away already. Let's see what battles we've got going on a little further back. Look at this, nose to tail for 7th position, possibly even higher. I think that is, who's that trying to work their way up the inside? I think that's Martin Deckins, maybe. Yeah, Martin Deckins has got in front of John McConville, who isn't a privateer. I'll have to note that down. He's definitely a Simracersworld esports driver, and he's losing more and more positions, now losing out to Dominic Forster for Vulcan Sim Racing. Massive moment in front for Martin Deckins. I think John might even have a bit of damage aboard that BMW M8. We've got even more battling further back. Let's just look at this. Look at that train. And all nose to tail. So just leading this, Martin Deckins, Dominic Forster, Bram van Uitven, Stephen Wolf, John McConville, Sven Calbert, Cammy Sturch, just to name a few. And we continue on. We've got a few more nose to tail battles a little further back. This is Stuart Musselwhite now under pressure from Dean Timms in that very brightly coloured Year 1 Porsche 911 RSR. And speaking of Porsche, the series sponsor, Porsche Sport, massive thank you to them for getting aboard and being the title sponsor this season, among others, with Dynamic Simulators, Strasser and Abruzzi. But at the moment, Peter, it's a busy old race.
Certainly is, and it's a long way around here, around Imola, 90-minute race. Very, very tricky circuit, so easy to make a mistake, and it's very, very tight heading into Tamburello, the opening chicane, and that, yeah, there was a bit of a pile up there basically, and it happens in all levels of motor racing into that particular corner. So yeah, it's really, as it is in a lot of the endurance races in iRacing, you just got to try and keep the nose clean. And if you get people dive bombing, sometimes you just have to let them have their moment and just settle into your own pace, calmly settle into the pace, because if you get involved even in the slightest incident early, your chances are over already. So you just kind of have to just calm down and try and avoid the contact in the early stages and make sure you're at the end of the race when the points get handed out.
Definitely, but someone who is already thinking about the end of the race is our current leader, Vincenzo Amico, 1.8 seconds clear of Ben Thanes, who is 2.25 seconds clear of Kamil Yagizoglu already. So the lead pairing starting to wear away already. Kamil Yagizoglu starting to feel the pressure of Steady Eddie himself. Anton Dupin in the Flemish Sim Sports 4 GT. I think we're going to see a return to dominance for Anton. He had a rotten race at Mosport just a couple of weeks ago, but he's back on form tonight, up into 4th position, looking to get into the podium positions. We've got more battling further back. I don't think this battle is going to dissipate anytime soon, because there must be it must be basically everybody but the leaders that's involved in this. This is Hendrik de Grave looking to the left and to the right of Matthias Sufi in his Ferrari, but he's always got to keep an eye on his mirrors for Giuseppe Nazzo, and Marius Janka quite a way down. He's in 19th position, Peter. I was expecting him to be way higher.
Yeah, it's like the jolly green giant, that car, the BMW M8 in that wonderful bright green Manatee Racing livery, 8888. That would be very, very lucky in certain parts of Asia. And yeah, he's running in the edge of the top 10 right now. Quite a good place to be at the back of the train right now. You can see there's quite a large train here running at a decent pace. Now, of course, we've got 2 pit stops for our drivers to have to get to the end of this 90-minute race. So we believe the stint length to be about 35 to 40 minutes or so, something like that. So 2 pit stops to get to the end. However, the amount of time that you spend in those pit stops is very important. And of course, the less fuel that you have to put into the tank when you come into pit lane, obviously the less amount of time you will be in pit lane. So when you're out on track, you can use the tactics sometimes to save a little bit of fuel. So if you're for example, if you're the Ferrari at the back there, then you can really kind of change up the gearbox a little bit earlier, just ease on the throttle a little bit softer, but still maintain the pace of the cars in front, as we see the 46 of Dean Timms. Oh, dearie me, backing it into the corner, Valentino Rossi style, doing the 46, the number 46. A good service there, but yeah, back going again in the year 1 custom flip-flop company car.
Yeah, we saw that yesterday, going into that double right-hander, almost uphill straight away on exit there. We've seen lots of drivers get caught out, whether it be locking up the inside front wheel and not being able to slow it down in time, or just over-rotating the rear on the way in. It's very easy to make a mistake there. Look at that! Look at the damage John McConville, has got on the front of his BMW. I've heard of Seb Herbury that he had a slowdown, but whether he picked up damage or tried to avoid a bigger incident, sustained a bit of damage and got a slowdown. So a rotten race for John McConville so far. He's lost 4 positions from his starting position, and now he's got damage, but he is on the tail of Stephen de Wolf for Dynamics Racing going into turn 1. It's a wash with BMWs at the moment. We've got the Porsche of Bram van Uitven, the second of the Dynamics cars, sneaking in behind. I say that, as soon as we look at him, he runs wide, going through the first chicane and continues on. No major calamities for him, but picking up 2 positions, Sven Kalbert and Cami Sturch.
Yeah, Cami Sturch joined the series, I think it was round 2 or 3. It wasn't there from the beginning anyway, but she's been a great addition to the series. Had some good top 10 finishes, and I have to say that Fordzilla car looks absolutely fantastic with the blue and orange. Looks excellent, and she's running very, very strongly indeed right now in 13th spot, and the car nice and clean, no damage as yet. And Stuart Musselwhite, one of the Simracersworld GT drivers, has spun at the Tosa chicane. So let's see what happened here. Has he been a hit? Oh, got a bit of a help there from the number 8. Oh dear, dear, dear. Now I think the number 8 car, that's one of our newcomers, Wessel Janssen.
Oh, he's had an incident as well. I'm trying to find him. I'm trying to click on him. There we go. So he goes up the inside. I will try and get that again if I can get the correct camera. We go here. Sorry about this, everybody. And then we go there. We find Wessel Janssen. That's when he went off track. So we're looking at... Oh, he's been hit from behind there. Let's see if we can get another camera angle on what happened. That wasn't the incident I meant to click on, but it's the incident we're looking at. So let's see what happened. That's one of the Flemish Sim Sports 4 GTs. Oh, he gets quite a big hit from behind there. Who was that? That would have been, I'm looking for it, that would have been Kimber Hates that helped him off the road there. We'll go back live with him just to see how he's getting on. No major calamities, but a lot of damage on the front and rear of that BMW. It seems like it's been quite an argy-bargy start to the race, Peter, but somebody who is just lapping away into the distance. Vincenzo Amico.
Yeah, Wessel Janssen not having quite as nice a day as Vincenzo is right now, and Janssen just getting biffed out the way by one of those Flemish Sim Sports cars. But that double right-hander called Aqua Minerale is really, really tricky corner. These cars really don't like turning and braking at the same time, certainly not from high speed anyway. They don't have anti-lock brakes either, so it's very, very easy to lock a wheel on the brakes coming into Aqua Minerale. And my Italian's not very good, Jack, but I believe Aqua Minerale means really, really difficult corner in Italian.
Well, I'm sure it does, and if it doesn't, I'm not quite sure what they're calling it, because it should be called really, really difficult corners, or
it's like
even...
you're driving on Aqua Minerale.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of the drivers will feel that way as well, not just in this series, but GT Pro as well. Yesterday we saw lots of incidents going into that double right-hander. Oh, a massive hit behind. I think that was Marius Janka being collected by Giuseppe Nazzo, possibly. Let's have another look back to see what happened. We'll put it in slow motion to see whether we can get a better view. There we go. We'll go there. That's Giuseppe Nazzo in the background. So he gets it sideways going through the first apex, and then Giuseppe Nazzo, he's got nowhere to go. Just gives him that extra little scoop, spins him through 360 degrees and then into the wall. And another hit there. Just a slight one though. We'll go back to live pictures, and Marius is still continuing on, but yet more damage on another car, and the car behind him, Kimber Haight, who has got damage on the front of his 4GT, which is looking a little second-hand now after that incident just a few laps ago. It's been a very argy-bargy race. I said it was a little rough and tumble earlier on, but everybody's getting their elbows out, and whether that's just because we're at the midway point in the season and they've started to decide, well, it's time to get the big points, or everybody's just thought, oh, you know what, it's another race, let's go for it.
Yeah, I think a lot of it's got to do with this Imola layout. It's just the way that every corner sometimes seems to be really there are quite a lot of slow corners here, and it really tightens up and bottlenecks in a lot of the corners, and that can cause a lot of issues with contact with drivers. Aqua Minerale, this particular corner on screen, is one particular culprit for that, where normally when drivers in there, they hit their braking point, and if they get a lockup, well, they're not going to be able to stop in time, and often you see cars running into the back of one another. Also at this chicane here, the Alta chicane as well, and Ian Roots is about to give us a wonderful demonstration.
He is indeed. Straight over turn one, decided that he doesn't want to brake for that, and continues on a little rallycross through the gravel, and continues on. We've had an incident for Stuart Musselwhite, so jumping from one SRW car to the other. This is also going through the first little section. Oh, the tail over-rotates there, goes over the wheel tracks of Mr. Roger Roots himself, and then continues on. Does he join the track at a decent enough angle? He does indeed. Continues on. Thankfully, nobody was coming. And there we go. Another incident for Stuart Musselwhite, and another incident for an SRW esports car. It seems like everybody driving for SRW this evening is getting caught up in it. I say that Ian Roots has gained 4 positions from where he started, but somebody we try and talk about as much as possible throughout every single race, purely due to the amount of positions he's gained. But Taylor Lane, Peter, up 13 positions, and we're only on lap 8.
He's definitely going fiercely forward. I can see why he was signed for your jolly band of sim racing drivers, Jack. I commentate on another series, a Formula 3 series, and Taylor's equally as exciting in that particular series as well. Always charging through the field, and always one of the more entertaining drivers to watch. And he's been no different in this series as well. So no doubt we'll have lots to chat to him about when he comes into the interview room later. I'm sure you'll have plenty to talk about, because there's we could almost have a Taylor Lane stream, couldn't we? We could have a Taylor Lane cam where we watch him going up and down the field throughout the whole race.
I'm sure we could, actually. We'll have to speak to him, whether he's got his own YouTube or Twitch channel, just to see whether we can get a Taylor's perspective on the race, because he definitely knows what he's doing. Pulling over to the outside there, whether that's a different line through the double right-hander and back up the hill again, but he's chasing down Giuseppe Nazzo. But look who's in behind them, Peter. It's Rob Tyson working his way back up through the order, and still a quite damaged BMW. I'm assuming he's just going to hold off for a little while until the pit window opens to get that car fixed. You do get one fast repair. We've had Cammy Sturge off the road, Peter. Tell us what you see.
Well, let's see. We're coming down to Aqua Minerale. Is she going to get a help here? Yeah, a big one at that. Oh, no, not Aqua Minerale. My apologies. That's the Villeneuve chicane. And absolutely nothing Cammy could have done about that. She was following her line, didn't brake particularly early, and just bumped off the track. That's really frustrating for the Team Fordzilla driver, but she gets back on track safely. That's the way to do it. And yeah, back going again. Looks like she's got away without too much damage. Nothing that shouldn't be able to be fixed, as we see back on track now, battling with Dean Timms in the Year 1 Porsche. But yeah, it shouldn't be too bad. Now, if for any drivers who have taken minor damage so far in this race, you mentioned the pit window, Jack. I would imagine at about 20 minutes into this race, that's the point where they can take their first pit stop, as that's Taylor Lane off in the background. We'll come back to that in a second. Yes, I think at about 20 minutes, that will be the point when the drivers can come in and then be able to get home on just the normal 2 pit stops. But if they pit now, they won't be able to get home. They'll have to take a third stop. Whoa, big oversteer moment again from Timms, and he's held it. Oh, fantastic. I tell you what, Dean Timms, him and Taylor Lane are going to be battling for the most exciting driver of the race. So let's get a look at the Taylor Lane incident then. In the 32, fiercely forward machine just gets a little bit loose on the curb, but shouldn't have too much damage there. Jack should be able to get back going again.
He should indeed, but I want to continue watching because I fear he might have had another incident after this. So he's off the road at the moment. Gets it spun around again. I think it might have just been he went off again, so that would have classed it as one off track and then the other. The reason why I feared he had an incident is because James Hobden had an incident just after. This is going into the Villeneuve chicane. Very similar incident to Taylor Lane, but running wide, keeps the car pointing the correct direction, and we've had 2 back-to-back incidents for Marius Janka once again. Going into the hairpin, over-rotated the rear of the car. Does he get collected by anybody else? He does indeed. A massive hit from the number 5. That's Kimber Haight once again getting into another car, but nowhere he could really go at that point. Marius Janka with a massive hit in the left-hand side of his car. I wouldn't be surprised if he dives into the pits this time. We look back at him and that car is crabbing a hell of a lot. Let's see what's happened here, because he's been off track once, twice and 3 times. I think just after that hit, that was just the damage, and he's sideways down the hill. We'll have another look again. And this is coming out of the penultimate corner. That is a very poorly BMW, and that's the incident. We went back live with him, and as expected, he's gone into the pits. Good call by Marius. He can pick up his fast repair and do what return to the track in hope of picking up some more points. Look at this, Bradley Brock. He's under pressure here from another newcomer, Wessel Janssen, looking to the inside of the E-Team brick car, the inside. Great job by Wessel, and he might lose out again. Will Bradley Brock? He's to Roger Morton, and he's managed to get the position made as well. So 2 positions lost in 2 corners for Bradley.
Absolutely, and it's a shame for Marius Janka there as well. As you say, the terrible suspension damage. The manatee turned into a crab, so all kinds of aquamarine life. And there, as we see, oh dearie me, the Dieter Aert's getting late on the brakes there. But yeah, I have to say the E-Team brick cars, they look absolutely fantastic in that white livery. Very, very nice indeed. Look at that, beautiful. Running the Cinetic sponsorship, who are sponsoring the TAS BMW team in the British Superbike Championship as well. I wonder if that must be the same Cinetic. And isn't that a throwback as well? They've got Kenwood on the back there as well. I think that's a very 1990s sports car sponsor.
I've got to say, I'm just going to agree with you on that one, because I wasn't around in the 1990s.
You've never heard of a Kenwood plug-like stereo? You get a unit, you put it in the dash of the car. No.
I probably have, but
because on the parcel shelf. No.
Oh, I recognise the logo now. I recognise the logo. I never related it to motorsport. Didn't even know what they were. I just recognised the logo. We've had another incident for Marius Janka as we're looking at Bradley Brockie's go off the road and let his teammate through. Let's see what's happened to Marius. He's just returned with a nice fresh car. Aqua Minerales sideways once again. It seems like the tail end of that BMW is really, really loose this evening. And we've had an incident, I fear, for John McConville as well. So a second incident for John McConville this evening. Once again, Aqua Minerales. Oh, he gets into the tail end of, I'm not sure who that was actually. It was one of the Dynamics BMWs. I'm assuming that was Stephen de Wolf. It was indeed. We'll go back live with Stephen to see how he's getting on. And he's in a trio at the moment, led by Martin Deckins still and Dominic Forster for Vulcan Sim Racing. And once again, Dominic with the odd little blink in and out here, making sure he keeps everything interesting. And then the rear is being held up by Stephen de Wolf. So rear gunner at the moment for Stephen, just controlling Dominic, well, trying to control Dominic, but with that blinking, I'm sure it is quite distracting. And we saw this a couple of weeks ago at Mosport from Dominic. Do you think this is something the drivers will just sort of be attuned to now? They've seen it once, and surely it's not as bad the second time round.
Absolutely, and I think there's nothing that the Dominic can do about it. Really, it's just one of these things that's and it's funny, Jack. It's amazing how you get some drivers in the sim racing world who really like to be quite personal towards someone who's suffering with a little bit of internet connection issues. But sometimes it's, like you say, it's just one of these things that you have to contend with as well. And Dominic, apart from that, driving very safely indeed and very strongly, running at the moment. So yeah, it's one of these, like you say, one of these things that the drivers will just get used to. But pity for John McConville there. Oh, his tail lane's had another crash. Oh dear, he's going through the gravel. Oh, did well to miss that Ford. Very, very well. Oh, we've got 2 Fords off. Oh, this is chaos. What's happening here? So we see Steve Cooley going off, and then runs into the side of Taylor Lane, and that's Kim Behate spinning back round as well. Oh dear me, what a mess.
Yeah, it seems like the bottom end of the order today is well and truly in the wars. Kimber Haight with battle scars on his Ford GT. Let's see whether we can get a better camera angle. There we go. So he's got a lot of damage on the front end of that. Steve Cooley carrying damage on the front end of his Ford GT as well. I think Taylor Lane got away with that very, very nicely because he avoided one car just about. I think he's got a bit of damage on the front end of his Porsche and then managed to avoid Kimber Haight as well. But once again, that's more... There's no major incidents, just little spins here and there, catching people off guard, and I think that is just what's going to happen here at Imola throughout the rest of the race, because that's what you've got to expect. We've had Max Spooner in chat saying those are our actual sponsors. We are proud to have, and yes, it is that Cinetic. So E-Team Brit, they have all these sponsors. They are all proper sponsors with Kenwood as well, I'm assuming.
Oh, factory, fantastic.
Well and truly, did a brilliant job of getting all those sponsors on board. And it's great to see them out on the track as a pairing this evening. Bradley Brocky.
Archer pressure washers as well. Either all the right sponsors. Car stereo, pressure washer, Fords, brilliant.
We'll see whether we can get a better camera angle. Now we can't really see many more, but that is a packed car full of sponsors. So a brilliant job by E-Team Brit getting the car all lathered up in the sponsors. And it's, like I said, it's great to see them out as a pairing at the moment. P24-25 for both of those guys. They've got to be careful though, because they've got this hard charger coming through, going fiercely forward. Taylor Lane round the outside of Stuart Musselwhite as the hairpin, as you do. But the number 32 Porsche is on a charge back up through the order. He's still in P26 as we've seen him before, but he has lost even more positions from where we first saw him. So Taylor Lane looking to work his way up through the order, and have a guess how big the lead gap is now, Peter.
Lots, I would imagine. Vincenzo Amico, it's a pity actually, because you would have thought that maybe Benthene's, and yeah, look at that, Benthene's 6.7 seconds back, but a lot of that would have been lost in that incident at turn 1, and you got to think that Rob Tyson would at least been there to keep Vincenzo honest, but he's been able to sort of cruise away. And of course, for Vincenzo, he's got so much pace in hand that he won't necessarily need to be pushing 100% here. And that should really be his strategy now, because if he doesn't want to push over the edge and make a mistake, because then Ben Thanes will be right there to capitalise on it. So yeah, a really good debut so far from Vincenzo Amico, and like you say, he might be getting an unwanted promotion to the Pro Series, perhaps.
I think that will be on the cards at the maximum sort of status. I think what he'll get for the moment is just a class boost up to silver, and then they'll decide from there. But another newcomer to the series doing an absolutely brilliant job, just about managing to fend off Ronald Moons, another fellow Porsche driver. Is Sam Baxter for Fury Simsport, came in to the series only this evening and putting on a great show for us, currently in P5, defending from the Racemasters Esports driver of Ronald Moons, and that is 2 Porsches, nose to tail, P5, P6. I think these Porsches are only going to get quicker towards the end of the season, and with still half the season still to go, I think the Porsches are going to be there or thereabouts for picking up a couple of wins, if Vincenzo doesn't stick around.
Absolutely, or maybe we'll put Vincenzo in a Porsche. I'm sure our series sponsor, Porsche Sport, will be very happy about that if we put Vincenzo in a Porsche. Maybe we should put him in a diesel Jetta, give everyone else a chance. But But of
Nope,
course,
it's the
looking on
Jetta.
screen, the number 97 of Sam Baxter, that the Fury SimSport livery there, Midas Simulations, MYDAS. That's company of Matthew Dorrington, one of the coaches in the Porsche Club of Great Britain sim racing paddock. Wonderful chap and a very, very fast driver. Of course, won the International Sim Racing Challenge when Porsche Club of Great Britain took on Porsche Club of America, and Matthew is a online shop selling sim racing equipment as well. So you can check that out should you wish to. Also, Jack, we've been busy on the microphones even before tonight's race. We were recording this week's episode of the Porsche Sport podcast, weren't we? Which is a lot of fun, which went live today.
We have indeed. Literally, as you were mentioning Porsche Sport, I thought, oh yes, the podcast was released today. So I noted it down in all capital letters on my notebook, but you beat me to it. Yes, episode 6, I think, or is it episode 5, Peter? Please do correct me.
I think.
It is episode 6. So episode 6 of the Porsche Sport podcast has been released today. You can get it on Spotify, on Podbean, and I'm missing another one. What else can you get it on, Peter?
I think iTunes as well. Pretty much all good podcast providers. That's a good coverall.
It is indeed, and it's packed with all news Porsche and everything else. With the upcoming championships like the Mobile One Super Cup, you've got the Carrera Cup GB, you've got WEC, you've got ELMS, pardon me, and I think a bit of sim racing in the mix as well, as along with an interview with Scott McKenna, I believe, this week. So please do go check it out. It is well worth a listen to, and while you're there, you can listen to all the ones you've missed as well. But at the moment, the Porsches are putting on an amazing show. Sam Baxter started to build up a little bit of a gap, though, to Ronald Moons now. We'll have a look back to the closest drivers, and it's the E-Team Brit guys. I said they'll have to be careful because, firstly forwards, Taylor Lane's on the way, and he's well and truly there at the moment now, Peter. Bradley Brockie's now only 3/10 ahead of Taylor Lane, but Stuart Musselwhite, pardon me, is getting in on the mix as well.
Yes, yeah. Well, if you want to charge forward, tucking in behind Taylor Lane's a good way to do it. But these E-Team Brit guys are not going to let Taylor have it easy as we head down to the front straight, heading towards Tamburello. Really, really tough section this one. But Taylor Lane gets good room on the inside, hard on the brakes, and into the chicane. Good respect there from both drivers, and Stuart Musselwhite, he'll be next up to try and get by, but. Yeah, it's going to be tricky, and here at Imola, the overtaking opportunities are quite tricky to come by. Track position's really, really important. As we see Sandro Ballesteros, he goes to the inside, but Taylor Lane, he loves that berm on the outside, doesn't he, Jack? He just goes straight around the outside, Ricky Bobby style.
He really is fond of the camber on the outside of that corner, and this is two E-Team Brit cars, as we've seen them before, following each other around, but they're just sort of getting in on battles they're maybe not that fond of at the moment. Stuart Musselwhite is now looking to work his way through. Taylor Lane ticked them off in the right way, got past one and got straight past the other, didn't hang about. Stuart not giving Stuart Musselwhite the time to go through the same gap, but I think Stuart will have seen the potential of the outside line going up through that left-hand hairpin. Stuart looking to the inside. I'm surprised he's not flashing his lights at this point. He's doing everything he can to fill the mirrors, so I'm sure an extra little bit of distraction won't help. Look at that, Bradley Brocky sideways on the exit of that chicane, and this is the closest battle on the road, I think. I'm having a look elsewhere. It is indeed for the moment. I tell a lie. We've got not Sven Cal, but Matthias Sufi. That's the correct Ferrari. Matthias Sufi coming under pressure from the recovering Rob Tyson.
Well, thank God we've got that enormous BMW to cover up the rear bumper of this Ferrari, because there's that hideous Chaz Drake media sticker on the back of it. You know, Ferrari, Maranello, they make some of the most beautiful cars on earth, both for the road and the racetrack, but that one has been utterly ruined with that horrible sticker on the back.
I don't think there's going to be a race where we don't mention that sticker on the back of Matthias's car. But sadly enough, it's another lost position, if you put my teeth back in, for Matthias Sufi. So the number 64 car losing out to Rob Tyson with another position gained. So he's now up into P12, the G-Drive Racing Exemia driver, with more damage on the front of that car than I think we've seen before. We're going to be approaching the first of the pit stop windows very shortly. I'd say in about 10 minutes time we'll start seeing the first of the mandatory pit stops, and I'm looking for the closest cars on circuit. I think we might have had an incident for, oh no, it was Dean Timms that has gone off the road. Let's have a look back.
let's have a look at the number 46 driver. He's struggled at Aqua Minerale a couple of times so far. Gets a little bit, just hops over the curb and actually does well to keep that out the gravel. He might have a little bit of floor damage there. Of course, the rear aero, you'll see a good shot of it there. The rear aerodynamics of that 911 RSR. It's got a big rear diffuser on the back, which pushes the back of the car down. And if it gets damaged, it can cause a lot of problems. In fact, last weekend at VIR, Virginia International Raceway, in the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship, the 911 RSR, funnily enough, had the ever so slightest tap from behind from one of the BMWs, and that was enough to sort of dismount the diffuser. And without that diffuser working properly, the car becomes more or less undrivable because it's all set up around that. We see there's a slightly more modest one, ever so slightly, on the BMW, but that's when the rules were set for the World Endurance Championship for the GTE class. That using that rear diffuser is really, really important for the aerodynamics, and that's why Porsche actually had to move the engine from the rear to the middle of the car to try and fit that diffuser in. And who would have thought a mid-engine 911?
I know it shouldn't work, it doesn't sound right, but it does a damn good job of it at the moment, because now look, we've got the first of the pit stops coming through. Camille Agizoglu has just dived into the pits, meaning Sam Baxter and Ronald Moons, both Porsche drivers at the moment, they'll be going up into P3 and P4 respectively. I think we've had another driver dive into the pits, hence all the position gains. That's a great camera angle as the Porsches scream by underneath the bridge. Anton Ducant picking up another position. John McConville driving past the pit lane as well. And we've now got even more drivers diving into the pits. Martin Deckens and Bram van Uitven all dived into the pits so far. I don't think there will be many more on this lap looking at the timing screens, but I'm sure as the race wears on, people will decide what they're going to do on strategy. The battle we were looking at continuing on. Neither driver willing to dive into the pitch just yet. Hendrik de Grave chasing down Dieter Ertz. I love that camera angle. It just shows off the sheer pace of these GTEs. Look at this. Hendrik de Grave looking to the inside on the run up to turn 1, sideways into the corner for Dieter Ertz. I've got to say, I think that helped him. Throwing the BMW M8 GTE sideways into the corner, get the nose pitched in. I've got to say, I think that might have got him in a little bit quicker, and he's just built up a nice enough gap to keep Hendrik de Grave behind. But I think this battle will be settled on strategy.
Yeah, looks like it. It's interesting that only these drivers behind the wheel will know. I mean, it could be that Hendrik de Grave's really getting frustrated. He knows he's quicker, maybe. Or it could be that Dieter Ertz is thinking, oh, I'm hanging on here. I can't believe I'm still keeping him behind me. But sometimes it depends. You know, it could be that Hendrik de Grave is quite happy to sit here, and he's thinking, well, this is a good pace. I can save some fuel, can save some tyres. Of course, they've got to try and make the tyre last over the 90 minutes. And here at Imola, that is very hard because it's a pretty old, kind of worn out surface. There's hardly any straight bits on the track. You're always on putting weight through the tyre, so the tyres are going to be pretty spent by the end of this race. So if you can have a little bit of consolidation time, shall we say, out on track, it's quite handy.
It is indeed. But look at this. I do think this will be settled on the pit stops. We saw a couple of positions made and lost yesterday in the pit stops. Drivers either being a little bit quicker to get through the length of the pit lane. It is quite a lengthy pit lane here. Neither driver willing to pit just as yet. Continuing on is Hendrik de Grave and Dieter Ertz. I think the leaders have still continued on. Vincenzo Amico at the moment provisionally bronze, but I've got a feeling he will be silver, if not up into the gold category very, very shortly. And he's please do correct me if I'm wrong, but that is Vincenzo in front of a G-Drive car, and it's definitely not Ben Tain, so that must mean it's Rob Tyson.
So Rob Tyson's been into pit lane. You'll see the front of his BMW looking much healthier, so he's obviously been in for his pit stop to take his fast repair and fill up with some gas. And look at that, just as we say that, that's very interesting. Vincenzo goes into pit lane, and that gives Rob Tyson some critical clean air right now. And for Rob Tyson, he'll just want to get his head down and try and make use of that open air as much as you can. In a race like this, over 90 minutes, where the fuel can get spread out sometimes, you really need to try, when you have that fresh air out in front of you and that you're not bothered by other drivers, you've really got to make the very most of it, because it sometimes doesn't last. And if you've got the option of going into pit lane or staying out, if you've got the clear air, sometimes it's better to stay out and just make the most of it while you can.
It is indeed, and we saw this at the start of the season. We've heard little hints that the 4GT is much better on fuel And by the looks of it, Anton Dupin is going to inherit the lead of the race. Only for the moment, though, as he's still got to dive into the pits to do the first of his mandatory pit stops. Stephen de Wolf has continued on as well. Where's Vincenzo going to come out of the pits? There he is now. I think he's side by side with his teammate. Let's have a look to see who that was. We're looking for a Ronin Simsport Academy car. Is it Steve Coley? It's not. That must mean it's not Giuseppe Nazzo.
One of the 18 Brit cars, I think,
it?
where Vincenzo came out the pit lane with. Yeah, he's just behind him there. Bradley Brockie's just behind Vincenzo Amico, who will re-inherit the race of the lead once Stephen de Wolf and Anton Dupin have come into pit lane for their fuel stops. But yeah, the Ford's an interesting one, Jack, because it's, of course, the 3.5 litre V6 EcoBoost engine. And so eco it does 4.5 miles to the gallon, this race car. but that is relatively speaking is actually okay. And this car's interesting because it's the rev limit on it can rev to 7,300, but you're actually wasting your time over 6,500. So actually the gear change point is basically when the red lights fill the dashboard. When you get to that point, you want to change gears. You actually feel like you're changing gear about 90% of the way up the rev range, but that's the way to get the best performance out of it. And of course, not going right up to the maximum revs of the engine, that saves fuel too.
It does indeed, and it's worked for Anton Dupin. And I think Stephen de Wolf has been taking a leaf out of Ford's book, because he has managed to make his fuel tank last an extra couple of laps. Vincenzo Amico crossing the line now already to inherit the lead once again. So Vincenzo back up into the lead. Ben Thames now 10 seconds behind Vincenzo. Dieter Aerts has still got to dive into the pits, so the second of the Dynamics BMWs going into the pits this time by Kamil Yagizoglu has already taken his, and I think the only other driver still to take his pit stop is Stuart Musselwhite. And I think everybody else has already taken their first pit stop. So the race will start to settle down. Now, the closest cars we've got on track at the moment, we know this will be for position because both these cars have dived into the pits, is Hendrik de Graeve still chasing down Thies van den Berg. And at this point, yeah, these are the closest cars on track. So I said it was going to settle down, but it's a little boring now, Peter, because we've got cars pretty much well over a second apart. And everybody, you will be able to see that because I'm just about to post a live timing link into the chat.
Well, I think permission to deploy a fun fact. I think that's a good time.
Go on, you go for it.
Go on. So, the first foundations for the Imola circuit were laid in 1950 with Mr. Enzo Ferrari himself was actually present to see the very first foundations being laid down. And then 2 years later, the testing took place with, of course, the Ferrari 340 with Alberto Ascari. And can you believe, in 1952, in testing, 150 kilometers an hour average speed. That must have been utterly terrifying around here. And it actually got its name now, the Autodromo Dino Ferrari, in 1970. And then Enzo's name was added when he passed away in 1988. So that's where the Autodromo Enzo e Dino Ferrari comes from.
I did think it was a mouthful, and that's why I didn't intend to attempt it. I just call it Imola. But as usual, Peter, some thrilling facts that are now going to be imprinted on my brain for life. So thank you very much for that. And you've got to remember, with that incredibly high speed average, that there have now been chicanes added in for safety reasons, obviously. And this circuit is renowned for one certain sad memory a long while ago, but we'll try and gloss over that this evening as everybody else is still battling nose to tail. Rob Tyson up into P11, Peter, and only a few laps ago we saw him being lapped by the leader. The leader's dived into the pits and he is now well and truly battling back up towards the top 10, because that car in front of him, Bram van Uitven for Dynamics Racing, in the third highest placed Porsche, is about to lose another position, I fear. Rob Tyson with more damage on the front of his BMW, but continuing on. I think I've figured out where he went off the track, but we'll just wait as he picks up another position up into the top 10, I think. Yeah, there we go. Rob Tyson up into the top 10 for the number 205 G-Drive BMW. Let's have a look at what sort of incident he's had, because he went off for a very short amount of time going into Aqua Minerales. Let's see what happened. There is the first off track, and there is the second one going well and truly off the road. We've had an incident for Roger Roos. Let's have a look to see what happened here. This is going into turn 1. Has he done it again? Does he decide to bail out of turn 1? He does indeed. He thinks that he hasn't got time to go around there and continues on. We've had an incident for Giuseppe Nazzo. We're just going to have a highlights reel at this point. So Giuseppe behind the wheel of his Porsche 911 RSR. Big jump over the curbs and back up the hill. But it seems like the curbs here this evening, Peter, just seem to be unsettling the cars to the point where it throws them offline. I think that is the perfect design for curbs. They're so intent of throwing you offline that you've just not got to hit them, so it'll cost you way too much time.
Yeah, they're pretty evil here at here at Imola, and you've got to know how to handle them, and also have the car set up to handle them as well. And we've seen a number of pretty high-profile drivers becoming unstuck with them as well. And interesting for Rob Tyson, because when he came out of pit lane, that car had been repaired, so he's used up his fast repair, and now it's been slightly deformed. So he's obviously had some form of light contact there, but nonetheless, he's still fighting his way back up the field, and we know that he's got a lot of pace underneath that G-Drive BMW as he looks to go past Stephen De Wolf. He goes to the outside. De Wolf goes defensive. They're really, really close. Can De Wolf hold it down? Oh, they're on the grass. So speaking of curbs, and that was never on. That was never on from Rob Tyson there, and that's quite sloppy from a man of his caliber.
It is indeed. It almost looked like he kept his foot in as he went over the curb. So a couple of bounces, and there you go. Both the cars sideways. Bonus points for synchronization, and they end up spinning through 180 degrees, the pair of them, and losing yet more positions. Rob Tyson getting well and truly out of the way, but yet more positions lost for Rob. Stephen De Wolf's got away with it, I think, the better of the two, because he's continued on and got the car pointing in the right direction. We've had an incident for a newcomer to the championship. This is Sandro for the E-Team Brit entry. Let's see what happened there. So I'm going to have to go back just a little further again. Sorry about this, ladies and gentlemen. I don't think he got a tag from behind. I'm going to have to go back even further. Sorry about this again. But let's just see what happened. Does he get a hit? No, he just over-rotates the car, uses a bit too much curb, and the car ends up pointing in the wrong direction. But back to the original incident, Peter. That's Rob Tyson, yet again, making more calamities for himself. And yeah, like you said, it wasn't really on there. He kept his foot in over the curbs, and it just ended in disaster.
Yeah, very strange one. You would think that Rob Tyson, he got so much pace in hand there, and basically tried to make a move stick when it really wasn't there, I don't believe. But as you see, was that Van Oytven
Yes.
Porsche? Oh my goodness!
Wow, that was Hendrik de Graeve.
Oh God! Yeah, you just saw. I thought, no, it's Hendrik de Graeve. My apologies. Yeah, this wasn't fitting as they head down into Rivazza, and oh dear me, dear, oh dear, oh dear. That's not where you want to go. And Giuseppe Nazzo, he's gone off as well. Riding on board with Giuseppe. I think he's about to see a car go flying. Whoa, jeepers. It's almost as if Giuseppe was trying to avoid it and had to actually back out the corner when he saw a flying orange and black 911 RSR. Oh, his Cami Sturts has gone off. Goodness me, this is an absolute car park here.
I think
Jack, you're busy in the production booth here, pal.
Oh, yet again, the curbs have claimed another driver, and then Stuart Musselwhite just about gets his slowed down. Honestly, if you could see what I can see in the production booth at the moment, with just the event viewer going insane, it looks like a Christmas tree. There's reds, greens, blues, yellows, everything all flashing at me, saying that someone's got off, someone's had an incident, something's happened. And Cami Sturch, the most recent of them, we'll go back live with her just to see how she's getting on. Continuing on, but she's now got the pressure of Hendrik de Graeve, who did eventually get out of the wall and the gravel trap at the penultimate corner, and he is now continuing on right the way down in P19. But it's been a busy old night. We said that it was going to be a competitive night and everybody's getting their elbows out, but I wasn't quite expecting it to go on for this amount of time. We've had another incident for Ian Roos. This time, this is going into I can't remember. This is on the run up to Aqua Minerales. Runs slightly wide, nothing major there, continues on. But yeah, it's been quite a busy night, not just for me, but for the drivers as well, because we've got to remember they've got to contend with whatever track conditions and whatever incidents get thrown at them. And tonight, there's been a fair few, hasn't there?
Yeah. Yeah, well, incidents is the key word. Of course, we've mentioned incident points tonight. That's basically the iRacing's a form of policing or penalty system, if you like, and they get handed out for different types of discretion. So if you go off track, you'll be given 1 incident point. If you lose control of the car via a spin or what have you, that will be 2 incident points. If you make contact with a wall, that's also 2. And if you do what Stuart Musselwhite's just done there, that's a 2 as well. Or if you hit another driver, that is 4. So we've mentioned incident points, and of course, across this entire season, you're only allowed 60, which over the amount of racing that we have, well, it's you've really got to be on your best behaviour all season long. And I tell you what, there's going to be a lot of drivers today that have racked up a lot more incident points than they would like.
They really will have been. There's been lots of not really major incidents. Yes, there has been a couple of heavy contacts between drivers, but lots of little just off tracks here and there, maybe a sideways moment and a gravelly moment to pick up 2. But I think this evening there will be lots of people planning on what they're going to do going into Silverstone in 2 weeks' time. It wouldn't surprise me if we saw a fair few drivers starting at the back and maybe even a few starting in the pit lane just to gain some of those incident points back, because we've got to remember the season finale, round 10 of the Simracersworld GT Evo series is at Spa, and that is renowned for the amount of incident points that you can gain. So you've got to remember that it's all well and good being under the 60 limit going into Spa, but if you're over it coming out of Spa, I'm assuming that is either going to disqualify you from the series or it's going to pick you up a hefty penalty on the final round, really where you don't want it. But once again, we're seeing more and more drivers getting closer and closer together, and I've almost got some sort of post-traumatic stress here, because I've seen lots of drivers get nice and close together and then have an incident. But Taylor Lane, he's had his fair few, and I'm hoping he's got them out of his system now, because all he needs to do is pass a few more cars once again to get back into the top 20, and we know how good Taylor is going into the closing stages of the race. So we've just passed through the halfway mark now, and Taylor Lane, this is where he comes into his own, because he only gets quicker and quicker in here. The car gets lighter, he dives into the pits for one final time and then continues on. So my verdict for Taylor Lane, he's probably on for a top 15 finish here.
He's certainly been exciting, that's for sure. He has been, unfortunately, seems to just be a magnet for action. He's been unfortunately caught up in a couple of other people's incidents, no fault of his own, and that can certainly happen when you're fighting your way through the mid-pack. But certainly exciting exciting stuff from the fiercely forward driver. But I mean, Jack, six incident points per race over 90 minutes is incredibly tight. So that's why we've seen so many drivers have to start from the back of the pack to bring back 10. They get 10 points taken off their license, or start from pit lane, 20 points taken off their license. And I would suspect that each and every driver will have to do one of those things at least once over the season.
It wouldn't surprise me if they have to. Like you say, you're only allowed, if you were to work it off averages, 6 incident points per race, and that is either an incident and a loss of control, which you tend to get as a package, or 6 off tracks, or 3 losses of control, or 1 incident, and then you pick up the extra 2 elsewhere. So it's incredibly tight. You've got to remember, these drivers are battling for position, which means they're battling for points, which means they're battling for prizes as well. So that means they might take that extra little bit of risk here and there just to get the position made, which could result in maybe an off track, maybe a slight little incident, which could be unfortunate enough to drop them 4 incident points, just as it happens with having even closer battles up through the order. Look at this. This is Matthias Sufi trying to defend from Dominic Forster. Dominic looking around the outside. I think that was actually the other way round. Let's have a look. So Dominic Forster past Matthias Sufi. That's what we heard here. So this is Dominic Forster passing Matthias Sufi once there. Then Matthias Sufi got back in front. And then what happened here? Oh, it was Rob Tyson again that was trying to creep in on the mix. We'll go back live with them just to see where they are. So Rob Tyson has now split the pair of them, and that is Rob up into P13 and looking to pick his way up into P12, because there is Matthias Sufi with a beautiful front-sided and roofed Ferrari. It's just a shame about the rear bumper. But Matthias Sufi continuing on in P12 with the pressure of the G-Drive Racing Exemia driver, Rob Tyson, looking to make his way up through the order. And somebody we haven't talked about much throughout the entire stream, actually. I'm going to eat my words here, so I want to watch his overtake, Peter.
Yep, here we go. Rob Tyson going up the inside. He's going to peel past Matthias Sufi. in the Ferrari into Tamburello, and yeah, he's got it done this time. So Rob Tyson moves up to 12th position. So he's and next up, Stephen De Wolf in the BMW, and you would imagine that the Belgian in the number 76 BMW is probably not going to make it very easy for the G-Drive driver after their little incident at Tamburello a couple of laps ago.
Yeah, I don't think there's going to be any... I say that. Steve Cooley backwards and sideways and off the road. Coming out of the Villeneuve chicane, I think that's where it is. He's under the bridge and continues on. We had another incident just in front. Wow, great job keeping that out of the wall. I think that was possibly one of the newcomers to the championship. It was Wessel Janssen keeping it out of the wall. But yes, I think at the moment Rob Tyson will know full well who is in front of him. This man here, Stephen De Wolf. I don't think Stephen's going to let him by. I think it's going to be a very, I don't know, not hard defence or overly aggressive defence. I think Stephen is just going to place his car exactly where he needs to, in the middle of the road, and be quick in all of the areas he needs to, just to make extra sure that Rob Tyson has got to work for it. He's going to have to work for that position to get into P11, and we can finally go back to what I was going to say. Someone we haven't spoken about for a lot of this stream. The only time we really spoke about him was the start of the stream, Peter, is Ben Thanes. He's in a world of his own at the moment. 13 seconds, almost 14 seconds in front of him, and then 13 seconds behind him to Kamil Yagizoglu. So Ben Thanes, I'm sure he's used to being in a world of his own, but at the very front. But this time he's in P2 at the moment because Vincenzo Amico has just disappeared into the distance.
Yeah, he's just got to try and keep his concentration now. It's always difficult when you know the drivers will have a little readout that will tell them who's in front of them, who's behind them, and by how much. And he'll know that he's out in a race by himself. So now he's just really got to head to his marks and try and really concentrate. But that's very, very easy to say, very, very difficult to do, and that can sometimes be an even greater challenge than being in a battle, because you've really got to maintain your concentration. It's so easy now to, you know, when you're in this situation, when you're out on your own, to maybe think, oh, what will I have for my tea tonight? Or who won the 1963 Grand Prix here at Imola for the first time? You know, or is that, maybe that's just me, perhaps. I'm thinking about food and classical motor racing facts. Roger Morton goes just about, hangs on to it, just about, and no more. Would you like to know who won the first ever Formula One Grand Prix here at Imola, Jack?
No. No, go on.
Well, I'm going to tell you anyway.
You.
I'm going to tell you anyway. Would you believe that the first ever Formula One Grand Prix here at Imola did not have any Ferraris in it? Isn't that an extraordinary statistic?
Sorry? That can't be right.
Exactly. That was my thoughts exactly. But, of course, they wouldn't have had any chance anyway, because Jim Clark won the race, and they wouldn't have had a chance against the Scotsman anyway.
Oh, Jim Clark, he was something else. He's up there with well, he's one of the reasons why 65 is my lucky number. 1965, he won the Formula One World Championship. He won at Silverstone, and Ayrton Senna, one of my all-time favourite drivers as well, also had 65 pole positions. So it only seems right that 65 is the number I have to go for. Look at this, Matthias Sufi trying to defend from Dominic Forster, but Dominic up the inside, blinking in and out. I think Matthias just let him by, just to get him out of the way, and he's bored of looking in the mirrors at quite a flashy Ferrari. It's one thing flashing your headlights, but flashing your entire car, that's definitely a talent, isn't it?
It is indeed. And also, Jack, 1965, Jim Clark won the Indy 500, so that's absolutely, I'm kind of disappointed now you've got the number 65. I'll have to think of another one. I have to think of another one. I always like to, with my cars on iRacing, I like to run a number on them that's particularly fitting. For example, the Ford GT, I run the number 85 on that car because I run the Wins Ford GT livery, the one and only time that, whoa, as we see Rob Tyson's, whoa, Aqua Minerale. So there you go. There's an example of how difficult Aqua Minerale is as a corner. Look, he comes in, he's hot on the heels of Stephen De Wolf, gets a little bit, doesn't even look that out of shape, Jack, and then just look at that, a millimetre onto the grass, and woof, round he goes.
I want to see that in full speed, actually, because your reaction was bang on. It's just a whoop, and there you go, round. Look, he has no time to react. As soon as it goes, and I can imagine if he is on a direct drive wheel or something of the like, that would have maybe caught his wrists off guard, and he might be stinging for a little while now as the wheel snapped over to one side, trying to get the corrective oversteer in. But he's lost 2 positions out of that. We'll go back live with him just to see how he's getting on. He's managed to weave his way past Matteo Sufi. and he's now trying to get past Dominic Forster. I'm going to make sure I don't click on Dominic Forster, because every time I click on him, he decides to blink out. So I'm going to try and save his Wi-Fi and try and not look at him for as long as possible. We can look at his battle mates, but sadly not at Dominic. But Rob Tyson now back down into P13. It seems like when he's at the front, he can get in a rhythm and disappear. But when he's got actual competition, he really, really struggles, which is something to bear in mind. Because if next time, or this time in 2 weeks' time, going into Silverstone, if he does decide to qualify, he's going to be up there back with his teammate Ben Thanes and this man here, Vincenzo Amico. And if he's got to battle nose to tail with Vincenzo for the full 90 minutes, do you think these problems will once again arise for Rob Tyson?
Well, it's an interesting one. I suspect that it's more circumstantial to this particular event. In my view, I think he'll be really, really angry about that first incident. He might not be quite aware of how it happened. He'll just know that he was driving along, minding his own business, and then he was virtually wiped out of the race. And to be honest, Rob Tyson's not been used to that. Also, for him, he's been used to clearing off and winning the races for more or less the entire season so far, and then some pesky guy called Vincenzo comes in this Flash Ford GT and goes a second quicker in qualifying. That's going to, 0.2 of a second, but was a second quicker for most of the time. And that's I'm sure that's playing on his mind right now. And like you say, it's definitely a change of circumstances, without a doubt.
I keep forgetting of that first lap incident purely because it was now almost an hour ago. But it was also so out of the blue. It was just Kamil Yagizoglu got stuck in a G-drive sandwich, and Ben Thanes and Kamil got away with it. It was just Rob Tyson that caught the brunt of the incident. And look at this, Vincenzo just carving his way through traffic. He's picked his way past Cami Sturch in the Ford GT, and there she is, just sat on the tail end of our current leader. And I think that's the best way to go. We know how eco-friendly, or not eco-friendly, how economic the Cami Sturch is. No, I'll try and put my teeth back in and get back with you. And we know how right, just you take it, Peter. I'm going to try and put my teeth back in.
Yes, they get them the dentures out the glass on the side of the bed stand. Yes, this Ford GT it's a beautiful machine, and one of the things about it is the shape. It's very, very much an homage to the original Ford GT from the 1960s. However, the engineers in Detroit in Ford's they basically started up a kind of private skunk works underneath Ford's headquarters, where just a small handful of people knew about the project. And the engineers were saying it had been signed off from head office. And the engineers were given a blank sheet of paper, and they said, right, make us a race car that can go and beat Ferrari at Le Mans. And so and it's got to be in the GT class. So that's what they went to work. And basically, a car that worked at Le Mans in the 1960s, well, the actual shape hasn't necessarily changed that much. And that says a lot about the Ford's engineers and Shelby's engineers in the 1960s. But in the GTE class nowadays, you have to make and sell a certain number of cars. So Ford had to produce a number of this incredible race car that they'd built. They also needed to worry about making a road version of it and selling those. So they did, but luckily they had the privilege of choosing who they would sell these £420,000 machines to. But the crazy part is that if you bought one, you were told you couldn't sell it for 2 years. And that time is now elapsed, and these cars are now changing hands for over £1 million.
That is immense money. I'm not sure how the people find it, and I know if I had it, I probably would spend it on a Ford GT. And the way you said that the Ford, the sort of head office.
I think we've lost Jack Werrell. Jack, with my Ford trivia.
No, I'm not quite sure what happened there. I think the stream could hear me. Oh no, my Wi-Fi has decided to very much slow down. I'm still connected. I am very sorry, everybody, if the stream has slowed down.
Are you there, Jack?
Apparently, I am still here. I think that was my connection. I am very sorry, everybody. I am seeing lots and lots of dropped frames. So I think that was just a lumpy bit of internet working its way through the wire, but we are back to normal. The dropped frames have stopped and my Wi-Fi has sped back up again, so I am sorry about that. But I was just saying that how Ford themselves have been in a very similar situation twice now. The first time they had to build a Ford that could beat Ferrari at Le Mans, and they made the GT40 and succeeded. and now they've done it a fair few decades later, and they've done it and succeeded, as far as I'm aware. I think they won their class a couple of years back. Peter, you're going to have to confirm with me because I know you're quite fond of your Le Mans knowledge.
Yeah, the car was in service for 4 years, and in 2016 when it debuted, it won quite convincingly. But Ford did turn up with 4 cars. That was certainly making sure, and the driver lineup, an absolutely star-studded driver lineup as well. And the car had 4 years in service, a little bit about, I think, 3 of those in the World Endurance Championship and 4 in the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship as well, and had 3, the original Ford GT had 3 Sebring 12 hours and 4 Le Mans wins, but this particular car had 19 wins overall across its career of just 4 years in service. And like I say, only one ever made it into private hands, and that was Ben Keating, your own Blake Imola and Felipe Fraga, that took the car to Le Mans last year, and it did win on the road in the GTE AM class, but unfortunately was disqualified later for a fuel tank infringement. So that car now resides in Ben Keating's office in Texas and doesn't look like it's going to see a racetrack anytime soon, which is very sad. And I do understand that these Ford do have these cars available for people to buy, but apparently they are so sophisticated and so expensive to run that nobody has plucked up the courage to to buy them and take them out into the world racetrack to compete with again.
Well, if we can get a Simracersworld Pod GT fun together, I'm sure we will give it a go. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, I am sorry about those dropped frames. I've just seen the scale and the amount of dropped frames I had. I think my internet literally just stopped and then picked up again. So while I was listening to your facts, Peter, I wasn't falling asleep. It was just my Wi-Fi deciding that there was a bit of the race that nobody wanted to see. We do have the leader back in the pits. That's Vincenzo Amico for Ronin Sim Sport Academy. Definitely not an academy driver. I think he needs to be promoted because he is leading the race well and truly. There is Ben Thanes not going into the pits, so inheriting the lead, going into the second of the 2 pit stop windows. We've just ticked over the hour mark, so 30 minutes of the race still to go. And Ben Thanes continuing on. Kamil Yagizoglu doing much of the same. Sam Baxter will be the first one, or the next one to decide his fate. We'll see what he's going to do. And it's still Sam Baxter and Ronald Moons, P4, P5. And it's great to see Porsche back in the mix and back fighting for the top positions, Peter.
It is, absolutely. I mean, this car is a wonderful piece of kit. 4 litre, normally aspirated. And it's we don't really see many normally aspirated race cars anymore. Of course, this car has now been upgraded to a twin turbo edition now in the real world, but we still get this lovely normally aspirated version here on iRacing. And this particular car was so successful while in service. It won at Le Mans in 2018 in the wonderful pink pig livery with Lawrence Vantor, Kevin Estra and Michael Christensen. It won at Sebring twice. It even won, now this is a crazy thing, it even won Petit Le Mans outright. Can you believe that? It beat all the prototypes. It was so wet that the prototypes couldn't handle it, and Porsche actually won outright in a GT car.
I'm struggling to believe that. Obviously, it's true, but a GTE has managed to beat all the DPs, and normally far and away, you look at all the IMSA races, and you see the DPs just storming away with it, lap after lap after lap, overtaking and lapping all the GTE cars, but it just shows that while the DPs may be good in the dry, the GTEs have got something else in the wet, as I'm sure not just Porsche, but the Porsche drivers know themselves. Although at the moment, lots of cars continuing on. I was expecting a few more cars to pit. Bearing in mind, we've seen the leader dive into the pits, and that is normally a cue for me if I'm in a race and the leader is far and away into the lead. If I see he's dived into the pits, I tend to follow him because he might know something I don't. But it looks like at the moment Ben Thanes is continuing on. We've got Kamil Yagizoglu diving into the pits. Let's see what Sam Baxter and Ronald Moons have already passed pit entry and basically pit exit already. There we go. So they've come round to tick off another lap. Vincenzo Amico is there, 1.2 seconds behind that battling pair, and he should be able to go to the end now. Ben Thanes still continuing on. What do you think is going to happen here, Peter? Because this is now 2 laps. Ben Thanes has continued on out of sync with the leader. I'm guessing it'll probably be this lap, but we know what Ben Thanes is like on strategy. It can really win or lose the race.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, at the moment he'll be running with the car on quite low fuel, and certainly when the car's on low fuel, it's quicker. There's, of course, the lighter the car is, the quicker it goes. It stops better, it turns better, it accelerates faster. Everything's better. So the longer you can run it on low fuel, the better. And also, the longer he can run right now, of course, the less amount of fuel he'll need to put in to get to the end of the race. So for Ben Thanes, he might have played a little bit of a blinder here with the strategy. He's still lapping around, no problem at all. So this will be interesting to see how it pans out. However, Vincenzo Amico does have a very large advantage. However, look at this. He's having to deal not only with kind of slower traffic, but he's having to deal with traffic who, remember, these guys aren't a lap down. So this is a battle for position right now. So they've got no license, if you like, to have to pull over. And this is not what Vincenzo Amico needs right now.
It really isn't. We saw Ronald Moons run wide there, so he didn't just lose the position to the leader, which he was going to do in the pit stops anyway, but he lost the position to Anton Dupin. So Steady Eddie picking up another position, following the leader now. I think Anton does still have to pit. Martin Deckens has dived into the pits. Ben Thanes will go back up to him very shortly. But Vincenzo Amico, the first of many to pit for the second time. Anton Dupin following him in the wheel tracks. Vincenzo punching a nice hole in the air, a nice full GT-shaped hole in the air for Anton to continue on. I'm guessing Anton will dive into the pits this lap. We'll go back up to our leader. There is Ben Thanes hopping and skipping over the curbs. A bit more damage on the front of that BMW than I remember, so whether he has just been getting his elbows out once again, but let's see what he does this time in the downhill hard braking zone. We saw lots of drivers get caught out yesterday. We've seen a couple of drivers get caught out today. Hendrik de Greve, I think, was one of them. Let's see what the number 33 G Drive machine does. Does he dive into the pits this time? No, Peter. He continues on. So what it was the fuel cell limit for this one? I think it was a 60% fuel load limit, but I'm not quite sure how he's made it last this long, because this is now, I think, 4 laps extra Ben Thanes has managed to pull out of that BMW.
Yeah, I think they've gone about it slightly different ways. It seems to me like Vincenzo Amico has basically split the race into 3/3 and has done effectively 3 30-minute stints, whereas Ben Thanes is doing it slightly differently. He's maybe doing a sort of 38, and then the little bit of the rest of the race after that. So I suspect we will see him come into the pits perhaps on the end of this lap, and maybe one more possibly. But yeah, if 2 38-minute stints would right now, well, it's maybe a couple more laps possibly. But yeah, going about it a slightly different way, whereas Vincenzo's kind of done it the simple way, just 3 30-minute stints, and that'll do. So really interesting stuff. But you've got to think that for Ben Thanes, he's probably going to have a little bit of an advantage here, running the car for more laps on low fuel. That's the big thing. And also, when he does get to pit lane, he'll not have to put as much fuel in. So this is going to be fascinating to watch. However, I do believe that Vincenzo does have enough pace in hand to make the win stick.
I do agree with you there, because Vincenzo Amico is 35 seconds behind Ben Thanes. He's actually trying to work his way past Sam Baxter now for Fury Simsport, but looking at it, we've got Ben Thanes diving into the pits this time by, but at the time of asking, Vincenzo Amico was 35 seconds behind Ben Thanes, and it takes a solid minute to go from pit entry to pit exit, including the slow bit in between here at Imola. So Vincenzo, he's going to pass the pit lane, and I think going to have a very nice margin, probably looking towards the 30-second mark now, because he's been sat behind Sam Baxter for a number of laps now, picking up that draft. It might have slowed him down bits here and there, but it will have given him that fuel efficiency just to secure his wonders about getting to the end of the race. There is Sam Baxter diving into the pits. Vincenzo Amico crossing the line very shortly. Has Ben Thanes got to his pit stall? He has indeed, revving the hell out of that BMW just in desperation to get going. Anton Dupin is yet to pit, but he picks up P2 at the moment. P2 on the road. The closest cars we've got on on the timing screen at the moment is Steven de Wolf, who is now behind Rob Tyson. So Rob managing to get by, and Bram van Uitven is going to have this BMW pairing bowing down on him very, very shortly. But it seems like the midfield has almost had an accordion effect on it. They spread out, then all clump back together again, and then spread out. And it seems like strategy plays a massive part in that, Peter, which I think just is what makes this series shine.
Absolutely, yeah. It's and knowing where, of course, the championship contenders and the aggressive in the midfield. I had the great pleasure of interviewing Catherine Legg at the Rolex 24 this year, and she said about her time in IndyCar. She says, "Believe me," she says, the Indy 500, the guys at the front, Penske cars, Ganassi cars, they've got it pretty easy. She says the people that are trying to get cars that shouldn't be in the show. And the cars in the mid-pack, these guys are really hanging it out there. She says, you can trust me on that one. And it's the same here in the Simracersworld GT Evo series. It's really, really fierce in the mid-pack. Also, Catherine Legg just got engaged this week as well. So many congratulations to her and her lovely fiancé, Zach, who will be some good news after Catherine had her horrible accident at Paul Ricard a month or so ago.
It really is. And I think we might have lost connection once again midway through Peter's speech. So I am sorry, everybody. We know Peter does bring in the facts and brings in all the info that we need.
You're just muting me.
I think I saw my OBS drop to 0 kilobytes a second, and then I got a warning on my PC saying that OBS has disconnected and it's attempting to reconnect, and then bang, it reconnected, and apparently I have now had 0 dropped frames. So I am sorry if that affected the stream in any way. I have got the stream up on my other screen, and it looked like it continued on without fault. So I'm not quite sure how that works, but it's managed to do it. So I am glad we are continuing to bring the stream to you, albeit with some maybe slightly delayed commentary now. But Sven Calvert is in P11 at the moment, chasing down Bram van Uitven and Rob Tyson, who has carved his way in between both of them up into P9. Now Anton Dupin with still a pit stop to take. We knew going into the season, like I said earlier, that the Fords are very, very efficient on fuel, but we knew Ben Thames was stretching it, and Anton Dupin has gone 2 more laps, so he's got to be this lap that he dives into the pits. If not, I'm not 100% sure what he's doing. Some immense fuel saving, but some immense pace from Anton Dupin. Looking at it, he is going to come out of the pit lane just in front of Martin Deckins, so he should inherit P6 there if he has a strong enough pit stop. There we go, Anton Dupin diving into the pits now. There is Martin Deckins in a world of his own, so we're going to keep an eye on Martin. So I've got a feeling that he is going to very quickly get his hands filled with Anton Dupin. So whether Martin is aware of that or not, but he might have a battle for P6 on his hands very shortly. We've got, I think, 2 cars side by side here, very much close to it. They're 2 teammates for Dynamics Racing. Bram van Uitven chasing down Sven Calvert now. This is for P10 overall, but I'm going to have to go back to Martin Deckins because I've made an assumption, and I sure hope it's right, Peter. But 9 times out of 10, as commentators, you make an assumption and it turns out to be wrong.
Well, absolutely. The greatest commentator of all time, Murray Walker, he would openly say he made mistakes all the time and everybody loves him. So we can make as many mistakes as we want, Jack, and we'll be fine. And if you get so yeah, Anton has beaten him out by about the length of the front straight.
I was quite off the mark with that one because I looked at the time and Anton Dupin had a 57-second deficit, or Martin Deckins had a 57-second deficit to Anton Dupin, and it takes about 50 seconds to go from the pit entry to pit exit. But it turns out maybe I'm just wrong because Anton Dupin is now miles in front and he's still in P5, separating the 2 Porsches of Sam Baxter and Ronald Moons. But oh well, we sadly missed out on a battle there, but we still have a battle going on mid-pack. This is between Roger Morton and Giuseppe Nazzo. Once again, 2 Porsches battling nose to tail. And if you look on the left-hand side of your screen, everybody, at the timing tower, you can see this is between 5 Porsches. Let's make that 4 Porsches because Giuseppe Nazzo gone for a bit of an off-track excursion, meaning Kimber Haight will inherit that position. No, we won't, actually. Who is that? I think that's Anton Dupin working his way up past him. So we still have a almost 5 car battle, of which all of them are Porsches. It's led by Hendrik de Graaf, then Taylor Lane. Ian Roots is managing to get in on the mix now, and Roger Morton towards the back, and Giuseppe Nazzo trying to pick up a few final positions as well. But it's nice to see that Porsche's starting to pick up the consistency, but also pick up the pace, because Sam Baxter is still right the way up in P4 overall.
Yeah, we saw the Porsche. Well, the Porsche doing a really good job in the very opening round at Sebring in the hands of Billy Fletcher, getting that car on the podium. But yeah, starting to see a few more of the Porsches up at the pointy end. Of course, we've got Sam Baxter here for Fury Simsport. Ronald Moons, who's been very exciting as well throughout the series. He's in 6th. So yeah, but look at that though. Still 5 BMWs in the top 9. That's incredible. First Ferraris. It's interesting, Jack. It doesn't seem that long ago that we had the iRacing Le Mans 24 Hours. When was that now? That was middle of June, so a couple of months ago. And the Ferrari very much was the darling of that particular race. Most drivers choosing that car, be a bit of a dragster in a straight line, but on these twistier layouts, it really is a bit off the pace, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is, because I've heard of multiple drivers that have been racing in another championship, the World GT Championship, on the iRacing Esports Network, that the Ferrari isn't necessarily the car of choice at Monza, which is where they were just last week or a couple of days ago. And it seems like either in between Le Mans and Monza there has been an update, or the Ferrari has just slowly been falling away and falling off the mark with the rest of the cars. I ran the Porsche at Le Mans, and I definitely noticed that the Ferrari was quicker in a straight line, so I'm not 100% sure what happened there. They might have been hit by the BOP hammer, and I'm hoping that Porsche gets booted up in the next BOP update, because while they are doing a brilliant job here this evening, once again, the field is mainly held up by these BMWs. Ben Thanes being the highest placed BMW in P2 at the moment. Then Kamil Yagizoglu. Then 3 BMWs of Martin Deckens, John McConville and Rob Tyson now up into P9 in the number 205 G-Drive Racing Exemia car. But I think one of the surprises for me is seeing a fall towards the top end of the order. We know that Billy Fletcher and Anton Dupin behind the wheel of their 4 GTs have been very dominant above the rest of the field, and they've been battling for podium positions and maybe even a win, like we saw a couple of weeks ago at Motorsport for Billy Fletcher. But Vincenzo hasn't looked back. He got the gap built up at the start, and the 4 GT has just worked for him, and it's renowned for having quite a unique driving style. And I think Bradley Brockes has just been showing that off as he's gone for an off-track excursion and continued on, but Vincenzo has just made the Ford work for him this evening.
Absolutely, it's at least Bradley Brockes. You'll have with a sponsor like Kenwood, you'll have a good stereo system on board that car, or in his sim rig at home. It's I tell you what, I can't believe you've never heard of Kenwood, Jack. I mean, that's the brand obviously still going strong in stereo equipment, but I used to have you ever 6x9 speakers? You used to get these speakers where you would cut 2 holes in your parcel shelf in your car and put those little speakers in and plug them up to your radio. And I tell you what, it was DIY method, but it was all the rage in my day, young lad.
All 100 years ago, I'm sure. But we do have a race going on, ladies and gentlemen. Sven Calvert still in P10, and I was just thinking, a couple of weeks ago when we had round 4 at Motorsport, we didn't see Rob Tyson. He's come back, and it's not been the best drive. Obviously, he was caught up in that incident at the very start of the race, but we've seen a couple of other incidents during the race for Rob Tyson, so he's lost out on a good haul of points. And we've now got to think, Billy Fletcher, if he's not watching this evening and he rocks up at Silverstone, none the wiser to Vincenzo Amico, he's going to be in for one hell of a fright, because we've now seen Vincenzo slowly disappear into the distance, and he is now in the lead to the tune of 10 seconds over Ben Thanes. And I've got a feeling Ben Thanes might be slowly pulling it back towards the end of the race, but with only 12 minutes of the race still to go, I don't think Ben Thanes will manage to do anything. But a standout drive for me, Kamil Yagizoglu. He's been on the radar throughout the season. I think he's picked up a couple of podiums throughout, but today he was caught up in that earlier incident and he hasn't looked back since. He's just continued on, kept digging away. But another standout drive for me personally, and I'm sure Peter will agree with me, Sam Baxter, newcomer to the championship, up into P4 in probably one of the least favoured cars in this championship, but the Fury Simsport driver, he's done a brilliant job this evening.
Certainly is. He's obviously been getting some tips from his teammate Matt Dorrington, who of course is that this was the very car that he won the International Sim Racing Challenge with both at Silverstone and at Road America. So obviously got a good setup dialed in that Porsche 911 RSR. And yes, Sam's driving it beautifully in this race. And the thing is, I would say a lot of what we've seen tonight, Jack, has been very much the Imola factor. It's such a tricky circuit to drive. You mentioned the curbs. The curbs are just evil here. I think we might be about to get another demonstration of it. I see Thijs van den Berg going off. But yes, the Imola factor, if you can run a 90-minute race mistake-free around Imola, that is, you will be rewarded, because that is such a difficult thing to do. And if you do manage to, oh dearie me, as Stephen de Wolf gets hit up the back and he's in the wall, oh dearie me, what's happened here? Wessel Janssen has got, oh my giddy aunt, that's a big one.
It really is. So newcomer to the championship, newcomer to the series, Wessel Janssen for Vueling's Esports, has managed to brake extremely late. He did wait to get back by, but he's dived, or to let Thijs van den Berg back by, but he's dived into the pits this late on in the race, I think just to pick up a few repairs to make sure he can get to the end of the race. But the field is massively spread out at the moment. The closest cars we've got on the circuit is Matthias Sufi, and the car we've just seen in an incident, Thijs van den Berg, who was Thijs van den in the wall. But I think the Dynamics racing car has got away with that. Was it Thijs van den Berg that was involved in that incident? I find that very hard to believe, as there's very little damage.
No, Stephen de Wolf
of that car.
Stephen de Wolf was, yeah,
right, that's the one.
Stephen de Wolf was in the wall, yeah. And that's why he's even lost the boot lid on the back of his BMW. And I tell you what, that's amazing. You can't see a set of golf clubs in the back of it. That's extraordinary that you see a BMW coupe without golf clubs in the back. And I say that as a golfer before you get in on the YouTube comments. So that was a big hit, and I don't know if we could blame that on the Imola factor. We could blame that on the braking 200 meters too late factor.
I think that was pretty much the case. I was doing a bit of driving here today as I went into yesterday's GT Pro Series, none the wiser here at Imola. I've never commentated here before, not even driven a lap in iRacing, and that's Stephen de Wolf. And what is he, Peter?
The wall.
So Stephen de Wolf back in the wall once again, losing out to Matthias Sufi and Thijs van den Berg, and he's now under pressure from Dieter Ertz. I think Dieter is going to get past him, so his Dynamics teammate picking off another position. He's got Ben Thanes hounding him as well now, but Stephen de Wolf having a rotten race towards the latter end of the 90 minutes. And yeah, like I was saying, I did a bit of practice here this evening just to almost put myself in the driver's position, and going into that chicane in between the sort of 150 and 100 mark is personally where I found you need to brake on a baseline setup, and having never driven a lap of the circuit before. But it looked like newcomer to the championship, who was it? It was Wessel Janssen, was almost braking at the 50 mark. So unless he is very, very, very good on the brakes, I don't think he was going to get that slowed down in a month of Sundays. But at the moment, it looks like Stephen de Wolf got away with that, because all of the damage is on the rear bumper and the boot lid. It might have crumpled the diffuser a little bit, but he's continuing on. He's decided with only 8 minutes of the race still to go, it's not really worth pitting. He just wants to continue on and pick up the final few points available in the position that he's in. We've got a new car in the pits once again. This is Sandro Ballesteros for E-Team Brit, who has come into the pit lane. That looks like a drive-through penalty to me. Let's see what the time is when he leaves the pit lane. He's been in the pit lane for 30 seconds so far. Here he comes. I think that is a drive-through penalty for Sandro. We saw, yes, Sandro does have a drive-through penalty for breaching the 25 incident limit. So Sandro sadly losing out there, and I think, yes, I saw the message earlier. Seb Herbert put 7 drivers above the 20 incident, over the 20 incident point mark, and that means they only had 5 left. I'm assuming Sandro was one of them, and I'm very surprised that Sandro is the only one that we've noticed having to come into the pits for a drive-through penalty. And I think the Imola factor is very much true, Peter, because it's starting to catch people out, and if that's only 6, or if that's only 1 of the 7 drivers to break into the drive-through mark, going into the latter stages of the race, this really isn't what you're looking for.
Oh, absolutely, and we remind our viewers that you're only allowed 60 incident points for the entire 10-round season. So yeah, that gives you an idea. Are we gonna have anybody starting from the grid next time out? Of course, we have plenty of drivers starting from pit lane to get 20 incident points taken back off their license. But Tell you what, there won't be many incident points on Sam Baxter's record, because every time the camera's been on him, he's been really, really impressive, really, really clean. And I tell you what, Jack, just the body language of that car is really, really smooth.
It really is. I think I've just seen Stephen DeWolf dive into the pits. He's been off track. Let's have a look to see what the original incident was. So going into the very high curved chicane, that was the first one we saw. Him going straight into the wall on his own accord. That was a big hit in the wall, and it's happened again. I think that was just the replay feature deciding that he wants to show us it twice. And Stephen DeWolf pulls over to the side of the road, gets it slowed down off the racing line, and I'm expecting, there you go, straight back into the pit lane. So I'm not sure what happened there to Stephen DeWolf. Yeah, quite a confusing one, that.
Not sure, but I think you've had more rewinds than Craig David there, Jack. That's now Craig David, Jack, was a pop star about 20 years ago.
I recognise the name. I think, please do correct me, is he a radio DJ now?
I have no idea. I have no You'll have to keep me up to date on that one.
I think I've heard his name on the radio once or twice before. But Ronald Moons now, ladies and gentlemen, the second of the fastest Porsches. We've seen almost consistent driving from Ronald Moons. Like you said about Sam Baxter, he's just kept it on the road. Ronald Moons has done something of the such. I think the biggest trouble for him was Mosport a couple of weeks ago. We saw the car very, very slidey through the Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. But it looks like this week he's got that Porsche tamed, and he's continuing on with very few incident points, just going off the timing software. If it's correct, of course, it says he's only had 2 off tracks. So great driving from Ronald Moons. Normally I add sort of 5 or 10 on because I'm not 100% trustful in this timing software, but nonetheless, great driving from the Race Masters esports driver, and he's once again in a world of his own. 10 seconds up to Anton Dupin and 10 seconds back to Martin Deckens. So as the race wears on, with only 4 minutes of the race still to go, Peter, everybody has sort of started to spread out.
Yeah, of course, it's a long race, really, really long race. So it's you just got to plug away. And if you find yourself, to be honest, sometimes in a long race like this, if you find yourself with open air, it can really be quite nice, because you can just settle into a rhythm and run your pace. And it will always be the case, if you have drivers battling with you, you'll never be able to run what your pace are capable of. It's so easy to just lose a second without even too much problem. And if you're out on your own, that would take you to make a couple of mistakes to do that. So yeah, it's sometimes, if you've got a nice bit of open gap on the circuit, can be quite enjoyable actually from time to time. However, you've got to keep your concentration as well, as we've only just got a couple of minutes left to go. Don't forget, all the reaction to both the GT, SRW GT Pro and Evo series will be covered on next week's episode of the Porsche Sport podcast. You can get that from all your favourite podcast providers. Also, with Le Mans coming up, we've got some excellent content coming up on the podcast as well. A big Le Mans preview as well. We're getting plans for that. And also, I tell you what, Jack, I had a brilliant chat today with a chap out in the United States who runs a team called Kelly Moss. Now, have you ever seen the classic 911s that they turned into safari rally cars?
Were they the Rothmans liveried Porsches?
Yeah, so the original one was, yes, but somebody came into Jeff Stone is his name. Somebody came into Jeff Stone's office one day and he says, hello, I'm an archer and I have an archery business, but I take people out into the wild and we basically shoot animals with archery equipment or whatever they do. And he says, okay. He says, I've never had a Porsche, but I want a Porsche. I want a classic Porsche, but I need it to go along gravel roads and I need it to go off road. I also need, if I shoot an elk, I need an elk to go on the roof. And thus the concept of the Safari 911 was born. So if you go onto kellymoss.com and look at their Safari 911, very cool. And they've sold them to all over the world, and to many celebrity clients as well. So that will come out, I think, on Monday or Tuesday on the Porsche Sport podcast. So urge our listeners to check that one out.
I think I'm interested to check that one out as well, if I'm honest, because it's an odd story nonetheless. But that just seems like the sort of thing that Porsche gets up to, and it just shows the diversity of Porsches. You can have the prototype cars going stupendous speeds, almost over over 300 kilometers an hour with full high-tech hybrid systems, and you can have rally cars, you can have just standard club level racing cars, you can have GTE cars, GT3 cars, GT4 cars. I could go on for days at what Porsche can do, but anything related to motorsport, I'm pretty sure Porsche have ticked the box, and I think that's what makes them so renowned, or such a family-known name in Porsche. I will eventually get my words out this evening, but one of the manufacturers that will be incredibly proud this evening is Ford, because look how far he is away into the distance. I say that, but that gap has come down 4 seconds. It's come down slowly enough that I haven't noticed it, but Vincenzo's 30-second lead or whatever it was going into the middle part of the race has now dissipated to only 6 seconds. Peter, Ben Thane's just behind him.
Yeah, obviously just in cruise mode now, just controlling the gap. He'll be aware of where it is and knows what pace he'll just be running to a lap time really, and just keeping himself out of trouble. Speaking of trouble, here goes Rob Tyson. He's going to try that round the outside move again around John McConville. John McConville's wise to it though, and so Rob Tyson. He goes, I'm not getting caught out with that one again. So McConville stays in front in the other orange and black BMW now. Rob Tyson looks to the inside into Villeneuve. You can't make it through there, but you can get it through into the Toza hairpin here. I tell you what, Jack, you couldn't say that in a Cockney accent, did you?
I was just thinking that. I was like, come again, Peter? Oh, no, that's probably not even the right thing to say, bearing in mind the corner's named so inappropriately. But the Toza hairpin, let's just go with Toza. It sounds a little more acceptable. So the Toza hairpin, let's go with that. Nearly claimed another victim, but Rob Tyson looking to the left, looking to the right, can't quite get the position made, and I don't think John McConville is willing to let him by, as we are now on the final lap, ladies and gentlemen. So Vincenzo Amico, only half a lap to go for the dominant leader of the race. The number 78 Ronin Simsport Academy driver has done a brilliant job. We've got to remember, ladies and gentlemen, this is the first night he's raced in this championship, so well, I was going to say he's got no trust in the drivers, but not that he's had it tested, because he hasn't seen any of the other drivers. He's just disappeared into the distance, and everybody else has more or less got out of his way. But a dominating drive from Vincenzo, and I'm sure everybody back at Ronin Simsport Academy will be over the moon with his performance. I think it's been quite an on-off night. I can hear a car spinning in the background, and I think it stopped in the gravel. Let's see whether we can see anything. Very surely, there it is. But ladies and gentlemen, your round 5 winner, I think this is going to be the checkered flag. It is indeed, flashing the lights in pure delight. The winner of round 5 of the Simracersworld GT Evo Series is Vincenzo Amico. A brilliant job from the Ronin Simsport Academy driver, crossing the line to finish P1. A beautiful debut performance. Ben Thanes crosses the line to finish P3, and then we go 48 seconds back, Peter, to Kamil Yagizoglu.
Yeah, but a good drive there from Ben Thanes. A good bag of points. Of course, he's been in the championship since round 1, so that he will get a good gather of points. And Vincenzo's still got a long way to go to climb to the top of the table. But yeah, here comes Kamil Yagizoglu. Good drive from him as well to get a spot in the podium. Very good indeed. But yeah, what a drive from Vincenzo Amico. Very impressive, but it looked like he got a bit of a scare there on the final corner with the car crashing in front of him. That must have given him a little bit of a heart starter.
It will have done indeed. You come this close to the end of the race, the last thing you want to see is a car almost sideways in the middle of the road. But there is Kamil Yagizoglu crossing the line. Sam Baxter with a brilliant debut drive as well. P4 overall, and he's finished second in the bronze class, because I keep forgetting Vincenzo is in theory a bronze class driver. I think that's Sam Baxter running out of fuel. He ran it that close to the end, but the Fury Simsport driver, an absolutely amazing debut performance. Anton Dupin makes amends for the poor Mosport performance and finishes P5. Ronald Moons, the second of the Porsches, finishes P6. Martin Deckins P7, Rob Tyson P8, John McConville P9, and Dominic Forster rounds out your top 10, screaming across the line now. But tonight it's been a busy old night for everybody involved, specifically for everybody in the mid-pack, because I think the closest finish we had... Oh, I thought it would be closer than that. Bram van Uitven finished 1.9 seconds the drift of Dominic Forster, but going off the battles we saw mid-pack, I was expecting a very similar finish to last night, where you've got a couple of cars separated by 0.3 of a second.
Yeah, absolutely. It's it's certainly the Imola factor playing a big part. A really, really challenging circuit, not a circuit that forgives any kind of mistake. But Vincenzo Amico really driving at a comfortable pace for him and head and shoulders above the others. Interesting day for Rob Tyson, of course, getting involved in that incident at the beginning of the race. Didn't appear to be any fault of his from what we could see on the cameras, but to get back to 8th place, but not without incident. But we're getting reports that he had 24 incident points for Rob Tyson. So for him, that's going to really hurt his championship charge. He'll need to have at least one race starting from the back, maybe more. So yeah, not really the best days for Rob Tyson, but his teammate Ben Thanes, I'm sure, will be very happy with the second spot.
He will indeed. An absolutely amazing race for everybody involved. A bit of argy-bargy throughout the race, but we continued on nonetheless. We're getting some beautiful blimp cam shots at the moment, heading out live with you, just to see the scenery of the Imola circuit. And I'm just looking through to see what the next event we have is, because I always like to see what's going on, so I can advertise it to you, so you know where or when you need to be and where you need to be for the next event. Looking at it, the 30th of August, so this Sunday on Simracersworld TV, where you are at the moment, we have round 4 of the Simracer eCoin Sunday GT3 series. So much like what you've seen this evening, just a slightly different class, of which I'm taking part, and Peter is joined in the commentary box with Hassel Reimer. So it's going to be another good night of racing, Peter. Obviously you've got a bit more experience of it than I do, but going off what you've seen this evening, and I think Vincent has done some donuts looking at that previous shot, but going off this evening, do you think maybe Sunday is something to go off? If any of the drivers are watching this evening, they might have picked up little bits from Vincent's performance or Vincenzo's performance and might put it into work at Spa.
Absolutely. Well, Spa is another circuit that's incredibly challenging. That's for sure. And yeah, it's going to be a very exciting event. And my co-commentator Hasse Romer, you've never seen someone get more excited about someone going from 14th to 13th place in practice in your life. But it's great to share the commentary box with him. Always excitement.
It always is a pleasure to commentate with. But I think we might have a couple of drivers to drag in for an interview. Let's have a look to see who we've got. I say a couple of drivers. I think there's just the one at the moment. So, Peter, I'm going to hand this one over to you because we have Cammy Sturch in the commentary box.
Cammy Sturch, welcome to the Simracersworld commentary box. Tell us about your race out there at Imola today.
It was going quite well until I had a mishap up my rear. I'm not too angry about it though. It's just one of those things that happens. I don't know if it was caught on camera.
I think you must forgive me. There were a lot of incidents out there. You probably noticed from your driver's seat as well. A lot of people maybe going to be starting from pit lane the next time we come out. But yeah, tell us about how your 90 minutes around Imola is a real challenge. And we know the Ford's a nice planted car, but tell us how you handled that challenge, because it's for me it seems almost impossible to get the car around for 90 minutes around such a tricky layout.
It's tricky to do it pushing hard every lap. It's once you're in the flow, it wasn't too bad, but I don't know who this Vincenzo Amico is and where they've come from and how they've just immediately blitzed all of us, saying that the BMWs were overpowered. He's kind of silenced us in the Fords.
Yes, I think you're going, will you slow down? We've got the same performance as you. I think he's done a Daniel lap. I think he's got Max Verstappen in there driving for him.
It's very possible. I'd love to hear if he's got a Dutch accent, but no, I'm glad the BMW streak's finally been ended.
Absolutely, yeah. It's always nice to see variety at the top there, and of course for you guys racing for Fordzilla, have you got what's coming up in the next few weeks for you guys?
Oh, I don't know if I'm allowed to say. Hold me to that, and in 2 weeks' time, if I'm allowed to say, I'll tell you. But we have got some plans, but also on a fairly related note, I just want to welcome the Team Brit guys who came along and got through the whole race. So sort of congrats to them, Bradley and Ballesteros.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to hold you to that. 2 weeks from now, we'll see you same time, same place, and you can tell us all about this exciting scoop for Jack and I. But before we let you go, Callie, is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to live on Sim Racers World?
Sven Calvert, he's a very naughty boy, and I wish him wet socks and itchy shirts for his future. He coming into the final 2 corners, he braked late or I braked early, but he punted me and I lost my 10th position, so I was very heartbroken. Luckily I didn't hit the barrier, but yeah, that one's for him.
We all know that there is nothing worse than wet socks, and that is, thoroughly deserved. Cammy, thanks so much for coming to join us in the commentary box, and we'll see you in 2 weeks' time, and you can tell us all about your big news.
I just wanted to whinge. Thanks very much.
Thanks.
That was Cammy Sturch, clearly showing a disagreement with Sven Calvert's move towards the end of the race, but nonetheless a great race from Cammy, finishing P15. We've got a few more drivers that we can bring in. I think we're going to save Roger Roots till the end, but
We've got Roger Penske in. Oh my god!
I know. I think I'm going to bring in newcomer to the championship and probably standout driver for me this evening, Sam Baxter. So welcome to the commentary box, Sam. What a drive
Hello.
from you! We've had a season, or the first half of the season, people saying they really struggled with the Porsche, but much like what Vincenzo Amico did this evening for the Fords, you just silenced everybody's doubts about the Porsche, and you've been in a beautiful position throughout the race. Started fifth, finished fourth, and this is your debut race and Fury Sim Sports debut race in the series. You've put on a good show this evening.
Yeah, no, it was a good race, sort of all the way through for me, really. Yeah, I made a couple of small mistakes, had a couple of slowdowns sort of towards the end, pushing for that sort of third place that sort of I almost had. I just couldn't quite get there. The rear tyres were just a bit too hot. You couldn't push anymore at the end. But yeah, no, did quite well. I'm happy to be top Porsche, really. Yeah, it's quite a difficult series, but it was really good fun out there.
It did look like you were making the most of it. We saw you battling nose to tail with Ronald Moons, also in another Porsche this evening, and it just seemed like he got caught out on strategy. I'm just reading the chat at the moment, and it sounded like he accidentally filled up with 2 full tanks during the pit stops. So whether
I wondered why he dropped back so much on that last stop. I also think I had a quicker car in a straight line. Every time he had come quite close behind me, he just didn't seem to have the straight line speed to make a move. So I'd like to think I maybe would have had him to the end, but I don't know of those mistakes, so it would have been close, I think.
Well, it would have been great to see you battling nose to tail, but nonetheless, a brilliant drive from you this evening. We go to Silverstone in 2 weeks' time. What are your thoughts on that? Is it a track you're familiar with? Are you confident, uncomfortable? Just let us know what your thoughts are going up into Silverstone.
Yeah, I really like the track, honestly. I did a 6-hour endurance race there a couple of months ago. And since then, we've sort of learnt a lot about the Porsche and what setup works well. So I think I should be quite quick. I'd like to think I should be sort of up near the top again. But we'll see, I suppose. There's a lot of setup work to do before then.
Well, we'll look forward to seeing what you bring to the table at Silverstone and see whether you can get that podium which you wished for this evening. But while we've got you in the commentary box, is there anybody you'd like to thank or shout out while you're on the stream?
Just the rest of the team, really. I've got Matthias and Neil doing fairly well in the Pro Series, and the other guys in the team helping me with setups and stuff. That's it, really.
Well, a massive well done to you this evening, and we'll look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks' time at round 6 at Silverstone.
Thank you very much. Cheers, guys.
That was Sam Baxter there, P4 finisher overall, a brilliant job and a standout driver for me this evening. And Peter, do we bring him in? Do we have to bring
Absolutely,
bring the boss in?
Let's
All
get
right.
the captain in, yeah.
I will leave
Which-
him to you. We've brought him in
Oh!
mid-conversation as as per tradition, but Peter, he's all yours. I'll let you deal with the boss this evening.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I introduce to you the Roger Penske of Sim Racing. It's Mr. Ian Roots. He owns the channel, he owns the team, and he's even getting behind the wheel. Ian, how was that race today?
If I can say I'm really happy with my performance, then that really sums it up, to be honest. That's the first time I've completed a race since November, so we're looking at 9 months, and also the first time I've completed a race in VR as well. So mission accomplished. I've got a lot to learn about GTE. That's the first time I've completed a race in a GTE as well. So yeah, I wasn't last, so I'm quite happy, to be honest. I'm quite happy.
It's a tough life running the SRW Empire. No time to be mucking around on the sim, Ian.
I've really enjoyed it, though, to be honest, to be back behind the wheel and seeing the names that I've raced with for 7 seasons as well. And there's some fast guys out there. We've swapped to the GTE this season, as you know, for the first time, and I'm like a fish out of water, really, to be honest. The GT3 is my first love, but I'm going to stick with it. I'm in for the rest of the season now. My equipment's working correctly, and I know that I can do 90 minutes in VR. The rest of the season is full go for me.
I wanted to ask you about that, and I'm sure some of the viewers will be very interested as well. The virtual reality headsets, which seemed like almost space age technology just a couple of years ago, now it seems like half the field will be driving with a VR headset. Tell us what it's like, and do you get the same sort of motion sickness that some people get, or how did you find it?
I did. I switched to VR probably back in the winter. Just after Christmas, and it made me incredibly sick for about 3 weeks. I was getting migraines and headaches, and honestly, darkened rooms, and that I thought, this is never going to work for me. And everybody said, no, stick with it, and just do a bit more. And once you've pushed through the wall, once you can get to 40 minutes, after that, everything's fine, and it's great. And I must admit, for me, the quality isn't as great as Triples. I do miss all the other information that my 4th screen gave me, and I was using Z1 Dash, so I was missing all that information. But Crew Chief now is an amazing piece of kit, and you can talk to your Crew Chief all the way through the race, and he's giving you all the information you need. So it is like having a real person in your ear now. So I've got all used to all that, but actually as an immersion, VR, there is nothing like it. You can hit every apex. If you spin on the track, you can actually look through the windows of the car to see where the other vehicles are. You haven't got the blind spots you have with triples, or even some people still race on single monitors. But no, for me, I think now there's no going back. I've conquered it. I really enjoy it. The downside is, though, it's heavy, it's hot, and it does dry you out completely. So you can't drink during the race because you can't see to grab a bottle. So, but I can do 90 minutes now, and I'm pleased with that. But it's really good. If anybody hasn't tried it, I can highly recommend it.
Need to get you a water bottle with one of those really long straws that all the Formula 1 drivers sort of flash out.
I think I might invest in one of those camel packs and put it over the back of the seat and have the
or the Budweiser double beer hat, like the helmet hat. You get one of those.
I wouldn't want to add any more weight to my neck, I'm telling you. But no, it's fantastic, and tonight it's been great, and the standard of driving. I know we have the Pro League as well, but even the standard in the Evo League now is massively impressive, and just congratulations to all the winners tonight, because there's some really fast guys out there, and it's the season's looking really, really good.
Fantastic stuff. Well, thank you, Ian Roger Roots Penske. Thanks so much for coming to join us in the commentary box, and looking forward to seeing you back out on track next time.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks, guys.
And I think going into Silverstone in 2 weeks' time. He's much more comfortable with his VR, so and he's much more comfortable with the car now. It's the first time he's finished a race, I think I heard him say, which is brilliant for him. So it means that he can continue on, only getting faster and faster and faster, which is what we like to see. But Peter, it's that time again. We've got to say goodbye and round the night off.
We have indeed, and I feel it's been a very exciting race and educational as well, Jack. You've now you know who Craig. Well, you already did know who Craig David was, and you know what a Kenwood stereo is. So it's been it's been nourishing and educational all round. And yeah, what can we say about Vincenzo and the Ford? He's going to take some beating if we see him again in the SRW Evo series. But I just get the feeling that he might be getting an early promotion up to the GT Pro because, well, he was in his own world today, that was for sure.
I think that might be what is required just to keep a cap on Vincenzo, because he's only going to get quicker and quicker and quicker as he gets used to the series that he has got to become so acclimatized to now. But sadly, it is that time of the evening, everybody. We do have to say goodbye, but thank you very, very much for joining me and Peter MacKay in the commentary box this evening for round 5 of the Simracersworld GT Evo series here at Imola. We've got to remember, on this Sunday, there is round 4 of the Simracer eCoin GT3 series, so please do pop by and say hello for that one. But other than that, 2 weeks' time, ladies and gentlemen, get it put in your diaries. Round 6 of the Simracersworld GT Pro and GT Evo series heads to Silverstone. We'll look forward to seeing you there, but thank you very much for joining us. Please make sure you leave a like and subscribe to keep up with all the action. But other than that, thank you very much for joining us in the commentary box, and we'll see you in 2 weeks' time.